Chapter 201. Who do you think you are talking to? The imperial era had long passed. After Grand Emperor Zhenwu established that age, he ascended to the upper realm, leaving behind only legends. The most recent and final emperor to bear the heaven's will and ascend was the mortal emperor. Back in the era when the mortal emperor competed for the heaven's will, there were actually two people considered most likely to carry the heaven's will of the age. One was the mortal emperor himself. The other was none other than the Mad Blood Demon. Mention the Mad Blood Demon, and what comes to mind is an image of an unhinged maniac. He acted entirely on whim, driven by emotions, not reason. Once, to cultivate his blood demon arts, he slaughtered thousands of cities and millions of people. Even with countless enemies, he showed no concern. On the primordial Hearlands, just uttering the name Mad Blood Demon was enough to make even toddlers cry in terror. They say the Mad Blood Demon disappeared after losing the heaven's will to the mortal emperor, someone murmured. Never thought he'd been hiding in primordial ancient city all along. He's probably been here since the city was rebuilt, someone said, horrified. God, I even drank tea he brewed before. I once even complained about how bad his tea was, someone else said, nearly in tears. Mad Blood Demon. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes, recalling the man's notorious past. So what? The same ruthless butcher now wants to play the hero.
Su Yimo Yukke.
I already said this city's fate has nothing to do with me, the old man replied flatly. You all just disturbed my peace. I just want to live quietly now. If noise bothers you so much, you can always leave and find another place, Su Zimo said with a light laugh. I haven't killed enough yet. Young man, don't overestimate yourself. Know when to quit, said the Mad Blood Demon. His aura surged like a crashing wave, crushing down as he calmly said, I once swore, unless absolutely forced, I would never kill again. A single God Meridian Realm beast is not enough to let you act this arrogantly. I once heard a joke, Su Zimo laughed. A man who killed 1 million people said he wanted to be a good person. I was too young back then and went down a twisted path. The old man paused before replying softly. As for the people in this city, the ones trying to kill you, I won't stop you from killing them. But the ordinary folks in this city, they're innocent. They shouldn't be dragged into this. I'm starting to think your brain's gone soft from living in peace too long. Su Zimo laughed and said, There's no such thing as innocence in this world. There are only the strong and the weak. Back when the Eastern Emperor and the 1,000 Monument Sacred Lord fought for the 9th Battle Physique, their war raged for years, spanning across 5 continents. The number of innocent lives lost must have exceeded 10 million. In the end, the Eastern Emperor killed the Sacred Lord, and when people mention his name now, they only praise the brilliance of that battle, his legendary talent, and the glory of owning the 9th Battle Physique. Who remembers the millions of innocent lives lost in that war? The Mad Blood Demon was silent for a long time after hearing Su Zimo's words. Finally, he raised his head and said firmly, I don't care what others do, but in this primordial ancient city, I make the rules. As he finished speaking, his gaze burned brightly as he took a deep breath. A long, long time ago, he was a demon who killed without blinking. He had no regard for worldly righteousness. To cultivate his techniques, he could kill millions without remorse. But he wasn't quite the cold-blooded lunatic the world believed him to be. He had parents, a wife, and children. He paid a great price to extend his parents' lives and gave the best of everything to his family. He thought, as long as he lived well, what happened to others had nothing to do with him. But then came the battle atop the heavens. That man called Mortal Emperor defeated him, casting him down from the sky. He watched as that man carried the heavens will atop the world. And in that moment he realized, perhaps all his efforts had been for nothing. He returned home in defeat, only to find his parents and children lying lifeless in pools of blood. He had made too many enemies. When they couldn't touch him, they targeted the ones he loved. Later, he slaughtered those enemies in revenge. He stood on a mountain of corpses, but felt no joy. He only felt exhaustion, deep, soul-crushing weariness. Life, it seemed, was a vicious cycle. Killing led only to more killing. He had come full circle. He had killed others' families, so others killed his. Heaven always settles accounts eventually. No one escapes. In the end, he put down his blade, burying it with his family. He turned and walked away. In that moment, the mad blood demon ceased to exist. Only an old man who sold tea remained. When the ancient city was rebuilt, he wheeled his tea cart here. And he stayed for nearly 1,000 years. He chose a quiet street corner. No one paid attention to him. No one wondered about the tea seller who'd been there for a millennium. He let go of his thirst for blood. After all, people have feelings. Over 1,000 years, this place had become his home. A home, huh? The mad blood demon smiled faintly. Perhaps it is. But in the end, it's your home. What's that got to do with me? Su Zimo said coldly. If I slaughter this city, what does that have to do with me? Too arrogant, young man. The mad blood demon shook his head. Then today, I'll teach you the truth. There's always someone stronger than you. Who do you think you're talking to? Su Zimo narrowed his eyes, and an endless torrent of demonic energy surged up from the heavens. Over primordial ancient city, a storm of malevolent energy blanketed the sky. Countless twisted faces swirled in the darkness. A giant figure loomed in midair, Paimon. The moment he appeared, half the sky shattered. That dense demonic aura spread like thunderclouds, smothering the light. Even the falling snow seemed to freeze in midair. Taste my domain of despair. A chilling voice echoed through the entire ancient city. A barrier enveloped the entire city in an instant. The demonic clouds grew thicker, roaring with power. In that moment, no one could fly except the mad blood demon. Everyone else was forcefully suppressed to the ground. Paimon's towering form walked out from the horizon. He knelt slightly, then said with utmost reverence, Master, Infernal Archon Paimon awaits your command. Chapter 202. You all deserve to die. This is... The mad blood demon stared at Paimon's massive form. The overwhelming demonic aura crushed his own power completely. I never thought such pure demonic energy could exist in this world, he said in shock. I'll give you a choice, Su Zimo said calmly. Swear upon your true fate to forget everything you saw here today. You can leave. Otherwise, you'll be buried along with everyone else in this city. We've both opened the 9th Meridian Gate. Who's stronger is yet to be decided. The mad blood demon snorted coldly. He still had his pride. In this life, aside from losing to that guy mortal, I've never feared anyone. In our era, even a grand emperor was no more than an ant between two fingers. Paimon shook his head slightly, then waved his right hand. Endless demonic energy condensed into a grotesque giant face that flew toward the mad blood demon. His expression grew solemn. A blood-colored river surged in the sky above as dark red light radiated from his body. Within that churning river of blood, endless waves of blood light flowed. The hideous face slammed into the blood river with a deafening boom, causing the entire space around them to collapse. That was just a casual strike, and yet it held such terrifying force. Everyone watching nearby trembled in fear. Many had initially planned to flee, but the appearance of the mad blood demon had given them a sliver of hope. Now, with Paimon's arrival and the domain of despair sealing the city, there was no longer any chance to escape. As space collapsed, the mad blood demon was sent flying. Blood surged around him as he soared back into the air, staring gravely at Paimon. Just from that one blow, he could tell Paimon was already at the peak of the 9th Meridian Gate, while he had only just stepped into it. Anyone who disobeys the Master's command deserves to die, Paimon snorted coldly. The demonic energy around him surged higher. At that moment, he bathed in supreme demonic power. A resonant sound echoed around him, a sound of the Grand Tao, surging with profound Tao rhythm. That rhythm seemed to pierce through all of heaven and earth, brewing from the most ancient demonic origins. The sky above roared with waves of demonic aura. Entered the path of Tao? That's impossible. The mad blood demon exclaimed in disbelief. In every era, only grand emperors could enter the path of Tao. Others could only walk the path of immortality. And yet the one before him clearly wasn't an emperor. So why had he entered the Tao? What's there to be surprised about? Paimon said indifferently, his body wrapped in demonic aura. The so-called path of Tao versus path of immortality are just the rules of your era. We aren't from the same epoch. Naturally, things are different. As Paimon spoke, the barrier around the entire city began to ripple. From the edges of that barrier, supreme Tao rhythm radiated outward. Loud rumbling echoed from above as the demonic aura in the sky churned violently. Within that growing darkness, countless grotesque faces formed in the center. Thousands upon thousands of demonic faces descended from the heavens, their momentum unstoppable and suffocating. "What is that?" Someone cried out in fear as the faces descended. One of the faces entered a martial artist's body, and the man collapsed on the ground, thick black demonic energy surrounding him. He cried out in agony. Moments later, he suddenly stood up and plunged his hand into his own chest. Blood gushed out like a fountain as he ripped out his own heart. As the heart was removed, his life force rapidly faded. Suddenly, flames of demonic fire erupted from his eyes. The martial artist stood like a puppet, unmoving. More and more people were invaded by the grotesque faces. The barrier made escape impossible, forcing everyone to flee and dodge instead. Even if you destroyed one face, more would form in the sky above, endless and unstoppable. "What is this?" the mad blood demon asked in horror. "The domain of despair forces each person to relive their most hopeless moment," Paimon said flatly. "Surely, you too have a memory of absolute despair." With that, countless streams of demonic energy surged toward the mad blood demon. "Just silly demonic tricks," the mad blood demon snorted. The blood river above his head roared again. The river's crashing waves carried immense power, scattering the demonic energy that surged toward him. "It's useless. No one in this city is escaping today," Paimon said calmly. He raised his right hand. Within the endless spirit force, a trace of Tao rhythm glimmered. He struck the mad blood demon's abdomen with one palm. The mad blood demon was knocked back again, and as he flew, his gaze caught sight of his T-stand. There, the little girl had just woken from sleep, her body already covered in thick demonic energy. She reached out her small hand toward her own heart. "Little Chi, don't!" the mad blood demon roared, rushing to stop her. But as he turned, countless grotesque faces burrowed into the back of his head. He felt like hammers were smashing his brain, threatening to explode it. The pain was unbearable. But it wasn't physical pain, it was an attack on his soul. Even with a celestial soul of the arcane immortal realm, he was struggling to endure. He quickly summoned the power of his true fate to suppress the invading demonic energy in his mind. But it was too late. Before his eyes, the girl, her small hands soaked in blood, tore out her own heart. "No!" the mad blood demon roared, his eyes filled with despair. The March wind stirred a sky full of blood mist. That day he had buried his sword with his family. He pushed his cart into primordial ancient city, thinking he could live out the rest of his days in peace. Over a decade ago, while gathering tea in the mountains, he stumbled across a small village. Bandits had slaughtered everyone. The scent of blood was heavy in the air. In a porcelain urn used for water, he found a baby hidden by someone. After a lifetime of killing, that was the first time he ever saved someone. And it filled him with a deep, unfamiliar satisfaction. He took the girl with him and named her Meng Qi. Now, the mad blood demon slowly turned his head, his face twisted with rage. He roared, "You all deserve to die. People don't die when they should," Su Zimo said calmly. "They die when they can. Many have tried to kill us," Paimon added flatly. "Our master once fought the entire world alone. Everyone deserves to die. Everyone's hands are drenched in blood. Even in death, you have no right to speak." Chapter 203 Demon Puppet. The mad blood demon's face twisted with rage. The blood-colored river above his head surged, its hue growing even more sinister. As the river churned, boundless spirit force gathered around him. The river and spirit force twisted together, stirring up the surrounding storm clouds until the entire space began to collapse. The mad blood demon let out a furious roar and charged directly at Paimon. Futile resistance, Paimon said coldly. Demonic energy condensed around his fist. With one punch, he tore through the sky like a raging river severing the sun. The strike drove the mad blood demon deep into the ground. Meanwhile, more and more grotesque faces poured out from above, turning Hunyuan ancient city into a sea of blood, a living hell. Ordinary martial artists couldn't survive anymore. The only ones still standing were beings at the level of the one-leaf ancient god and the 5 ancestors of Stone Tablet. The stench of blood filled the air. In the heart of the city, the arena remained eerily silent. The mad blood demon emerged from the ground, his face pale, blood at the corner of his lips, and faint traces of demonic aura swirling around him. His true fate had been injured, and the demonic energy in his mind could no longer be suppressed. With a furious roar, his vision turned pitch black as the demonic aura consumed him, dragging him into the most despair-filled memories of his life. Mortal had taken the heaven's will. The mad blood demon swore he would remember that sword strike for the rest of his life. It shattered all his pride, cast him from the heavens. He watched that man shine across the ages as he carried the heaven's will, and in that moment, the mad blood demon was utterly crushed. The memory shifted. He was back home. His family's corpses lay in pools of blood. That moment too was filled with despair. If living hurts this much, why not end it? Death is the only release. A voice in his mind kept tempting him. Slowly, the mad blood demon raised his right hand, reaching toward his heart. Demonic energy gathered around him. The blood-colored river above flickered as bloodlight and demonic aura intertwined. His expression flickered. Then, with a furious roar, he forcefully expelled the demonic aura. Though disheveled, his eyes now shone with clarity. If this world hadn't suppressed my cultivation, you wouldn't have escaped my domain of despair, Paimon said coldly. Just as the mad blood demon was about to speak, he felt a sting in his back. He turned with a frown to see several people stabbing him from behind with weapons. These were the ones who had earlier gouged out their hearts under demonic influence. Now, like puppets, they attacked without consciousness. The mad blood demon, an arcane immortal realm powerhouse, was unfazed. Their attacks did nothing. He waved a hand. Infinite spirit force gathered and vaporized them instantly, ashes in the wind. But more and more came. Growing impatient, he summoned the raging blood river above. A sea of blood surged and drowned them all. Suddenly, another blade pierced his body. The mad blood demon turned, only to see the little girl standing before him. "Cheer!" His voice trembled, but she had no awareness. She simply stabbed him again and again with the blade in her hand. "It's Grandpa's fault. I couldn't protect you," the mad blood demon said, his body shaking, eyes misty. As the blood river swelled, the little girl's figure slowly vanished within it. He lifted his head, eyes calm as he looked at Paimon. Yet in that calm, madness lurked. "You must be in so much pain," Paimon said flatly. He had remained expressionless from the start. "Let me end that pain for you." As he finished speaking, the demonic aura in the sky surged once more. But this time, the mad blood demon didn't fight back. Instead, the blood river roared and struck at the barrier surrounding the city. Boom! A deafening explosion shook the heavens. The barrier rippled. Pale blue light flickered, but it remained intact. His expression darkened. He struck it again. Still no change. "It's useless. Stop wasting your strength," Paimon said, shaking his head. Demonic energy swirled in his hand as he lunged at the old man. "If I die, you're coming with me," the mad blood demon bellowed. The blood river surged toward Suzimo. Seeing this, Paimon let out a cold snort. He raised his other hand, and 2 streams of demonic energy came at the mad blood demon from different directions. Boom! An explosion of energy tore through the sky. It was like a mushroom cloud rising overhead. The space around them shattered completely. As the dust settled, the mad blood demon lay dying on the ground. The blood river, his true fate, had shattered into countless fragments. His body was mangled beyond recognition. Worst of all, his soul had been fractured. Cracks spread across it like shattered glass. Light footsteps echoed in his ears. Su Zimo slowly walked up to the dying mad blood demon. "You'll get what's coming to you," the old man said weakly. "Life is like a book full of ups and downs. Until the last page, you never know how the story ends." Su Zimo replied calmly. As he spoke, boundless demonic aura surged and consumed the mad blood demon. Within the darkness, grotesque faces shrieked and howled. When the demonic fog finally faded, the mad blood demon stood back up, like a puppet. "Master, I've etched a demonic mark into his true fate," Paimon said respectfully. "He's no different from a puppet now, but due to the severe damage to his soul and true fate, his strength is limited to the Empyrean Meridian realm." Su Zimo nodded. He looked around. The entire city was now shrouded in demonic mist. The fog smothered everything, swallowing the entire city in darkness. Everyone here had been branded with the demonic mark, turned into puppets. With Paimon by his side, Su Zimo stepped over broken walls and shattered ruins until he reached the 5 ancestors of Stone Tablet. The 5 men stood frozen in place, their eyes hollow. Su Zimo opened their storage rings and searched them thoroughly. He frowned. There was nothing he wanted inside. "Looks like they were afraid of retaliation from the imperial lineages and didn't dare carry it with them," he muttered. "What about the Yi clan?" he asked. "They're trapped inside their estate." "I didn't touch them," Paimon replied quickly. Chapter 204, I Am a Villain. "Go take a look," Su Zimo nodded and replied. The group made their way to the Yi clan's residence. At this point, apart from One Leaf Ancient God and Yi Shilong, both infected by demonic energy, everyone else remained unharmed. This too was by Paimon's design. When Su Zimo arrived at the Yi estate, the entire clan fell to their knees, begging for mercy. "What does the Lord wish to do with them?" Paimon asked respectfully. "Simply killing them would be far too boring. I've prepared a special gift," Su Zimo said with a light smile. Then little Gue led out the imprisoned Yi Lingtian. His body was entirely wrapped in demonic energy, demonic flames flickering in his eyes. He looked like a soulless corpse, empty and quiet. "He's fully demonized," Paimon said in a low voice upon seeing him. Su Zimo walked in front of Yi Lingtian and said calmly, "Go get your revenge. Release the demon within you." Yi Lingtian slowly lifted his head. For the first time, those empty, emotionless eyes showed a hint of reaction. He stared at Su Zimo for a long while, opened his mouth as if to speak, but said nothing. Then, he walked toward the Yi clan members, picking up a broken sword along the way. His gaze was cold and distant, like he was looking at a group of corpses. "Yi Lingtian, you dare raise your hand against us?" an elder shouted furiously. Before the words were even finished, the jagged blade of the broken sword pierced into the elder's abdomen. The sword twisted and churned inside, tearing through flesh and spilling blood everywhere. "Still don't get the situation?" Yi Lingtian muttered as he tossed the elder's corpse aside. "Lingtian, we're family. Everyone here is your kin," the grand elder cried.
Ye Lingshan sniret.
The broken sword in his hand swung through the air. One slash, one head falls. What followed was a brutal massacre. Blood splattered. Screams echoed through the estate. "Yi Lingtian, you're slaughtering your own clan. You'll suffer retribution. Even in death, we'll haunt you as vengeful ghosts." As the slaughter raged through the Yi clan, the blood of thousands pooled like a crimson river across the estate. The stench of blood filled the air. The grand elder, hair disheveled, looked desperately toward Su Zimo and pleaded, "My lord, if you want to kill us, so be it, but the children are innocent. Please spare the children of the Yi clan. They had nothing to do with this." Leave no root, and spring winds won't bring new sprouts. Suzimo replied with a faint smile. I know the children are innocent, but I'm sorry. I am a villain. After saying that, Suzimo turned and walked away. As the Grand Elder howled in despair, Suzimo's figure faded around the street corner. Blood still rained through the air. The killing continued. Do you think there'll come a day when we've done too much evil and get struck by divine punishment? Suzimo looked at Paimon with a smile. Throughout history, every Grand Emperor has walked a path soaked in blood and fire. Paimon replied respectfully. The only difference is, some kill in the open, some kill in the name of justice, some kill under the guise of righteousness. For every great general's triumph, thousands die in his shadow. People never care about the process, only the result. Hearing this, Suzimo smiled and looked out over the city. Primordial ancient city, choked with smoke, corpses piled like mountains. My lord, what should we do with the rest of the people? Paimon asked. Everyone in the city had been corrupted by demonic energy, turned into demon puppets. Leave the mad blood demon with me, Suzimo said. As for the others, keep them here in the city for now. Seal the city. No one in or out. Paimon nodded quickly. Though the puppets lacked independent will, they followed single command orders perfectly. And have them search the entire city, Suzimo added. For a box engraved with a pentagram, or anything related to a 5-pointed star, bring it to me. With the city wrapped in demonic fog, the demon puppets began sweeping the city. Yi Feiling was dead. Brutally so, tortured by Yi Lingtian for 3 full days and nights. His mangled corpse was then hung from the Yi clan's gate. Suzimo looked at the pile of items before him, everything the puppets had found over those 3 days. But still, the item he sought wasn't among them. Could it be that it had perished completely with the death of the 5 ancestors of Stone Tablet? Paimon stood to the side and asked, My lord, what should be done with Yi Lingtian? Let him go, Suzimo chuckled. He's different from the other puppets. Who knows, he might be useful someday. Paimon nodded. Either way, I've branded his true fate with my demonic seal. He'll never escape it for the rest of his life. It's time for us to move on, Suzimo said, standing atop the city wall. His gaze stretched toward the distant horizon, in the direction of the Bailey Imperial clan. Demonic energy rolled through the sky, and as the first light of dawn broke, the morning sun rose slowly in the east. Suzimo and little Gue left Primordial Ancient City behind. This ancient city, millions of years old, still stood silently between heaven and earth, like a lonely traveler, quietly telling the story of its life. The demonic fog dissipated. The sky returned to its former calm. Even with the sun in the sky, the winter morning air still felt icy. Far away on the middle continent, within an unimaginably vast and powerful sect, a grand, ancient hall bathed in holy light. At its center, a crystal-clear ice jade hovered in the air. Pure white and sacred, the ice jade was almost transparent and radiated strands of immortal energy. The disciple guarding the jade sat cross-legged as usual, meditating in silence. But suddenly, the immortal energy on the jade turned to demonic aura. Its once sacred surface began to darken and corrode. The disciple noticed the change immediately. His face changed drastically. He muttered under his breath, "An infernal archon has awakened." He quickly gathered his spirit force, sealed the jade, and rushed out of the hall in panic. An old man in light blue robes received the jade from the disciple. His white hair fluttered gently in the breeze, giving him the appearance of both wisdom and ageless strength. Spirit force stirred around him as his eyes gazed into the distance, piercing through layers of space. This lifetime, it cannot be escaped. Chapter 205, Jiang Macho's Daily Life. Master, what should we do? A disciple asked anxiously. What will come, will come. Our very existence is for this purpose, the old man said, shaking his head with a smile. Suzimo and little Gue rode for a long while, Suzimo on the Dark Sky Tiger, and little Gue on the azure flood stallion, until they reached a wide, raging river blocking the road ahead. The river stretched endlessly, its far shore nowhere in sight. Countless boats and small vessels drifted across the shimmering surface. The azure flood stallion was only a common true Meridian realm beast and could not fly. The dark sky tiger, after sporadic feedings from Suzimo, had grown to the desolate Meridian realm. "Senior brother, maybe you go ahead. I'll find a boat," little Gue suggested. "No need. Let's ride together," Suzimo replied, shaking his head. "We've been through a lot these past days. A short rest won't hurt." Little Gue nodded. But since they were traveling with the massive dark sky tiger and azure flood stallion, ordinary boats couldn't carry their weight. The two searched along the riverbank for a long time but found no suitable vessel. Just then, a booming sound echoed from afar. Towering waves rolled across the river's surface. Smaller boats quickly steered clear of the area, afraid of being capsized by the incoming waves. From within the churning waters, a massive ship surged forward at high speed. There it is again, Yuan clan's ship. Always putting on a grand show like they're desperate for attention. Exactly. The Yuan clan's gotten arrogant ever since they cozied up to the Bailey Imperial clan. Someone muttered unhappily. "Shoo, lower your voice. The Bailey Imperial clan is an imperial lineage. Not people we can badmouth," another quickly warned. Hearing the nearby discussion, Suzimo turned to a boatman and asked, "Boatman, does the Yuan clan ship take passengers?" Suzimo smiled and walked with little Gue toward the ship. By then, the massive vessel had docked. A man infused his voice with spirit force and shouted, shaking the area for miles to ensure everyone heard. Ripples spread across the river. The announcement made it clear. The ship would remain docked for just a few minutes. Those wanting to cross the river should board quickly. This river was said to have been a small stream long ago. But after a massive flood, it expanded and engulfed dozens of miles, becoming what it was today. Suzimo and little Gue boarded the ship. Not many others did, only 4 groups of people in total during the short boarding time. With a thunderous roar and towering waves churning behind it, the vessel set off toward the Bailey Imperial clan. Staring at the endless river ahead, Suzimo chuckled and muttered, "Bailey Shao, it's been a long time." In the infinite immortal mountain, Jiang Macho had now spent some time living there. He had become familiar with the surrounding terrain. After that day, he had formally become the disciple of the Lord of Nihility. Today marked the first day the Lord of Nihility would formally teach him. The two stood on an open field outside the elder's hut. With a smile, the Lord of Nihility said, "Activate your Scarlet Flame Imperial Physique. Use your strongest power. Attack me." Jiang Macho nodded. He knew his master's strength was immeasurable, so he didn't hold back. Endless flames surged around him, a red-purple fire, scorching and intense, burning the space around him to ashes. His eyes blazed crimson with determination. He struck forward with a single punch, like a sea of fire erupting, full of sparks, crashing toward the Lord of Nihility's abdomen. Boom! Sparks exploded as a barrier of ice and snow appeared before the elder, completely blocking the attack. No matter how Jiang Macho tried, he couldn't leave even a crack on it. "I didn't overpower you using my cultivation," the Lord of Nihility said with a faint smile. "I used the same strength as you to create this ice barrier, yet you couldn't break it. Do you know why? Your control over power is more refined than mine," Jiang Macho replied. "No," the Lord of Nihility chuckled. "It's because you haven't grasped the essence of your own strength. You've fused with the Scarlet Flame Imperial Physique, the strongest fire constitution in the world. So tell me, what is the true nature of fire?" "Destruction, heat, explosion," Jiang Macho answered with several guesses. The Lord of Nihility shook his head with a smile. "It's burning. In the legendary era, fire first appeared in this world. It gave warmth and cooked food. Later, as spiritual energy awakened, cultivation began. Fire manifested in many new forms, but its core never changed. It burns." As he spoke, the Lord of Nihility waved his hand. Snow began to fall across the infinite immortal mountain. The snowflakes danced like dragons in the air. In the blink of an eye, a vast snow-covered mountain rose before Jiang Macho. The mountain towered into the sky, its peak invisible, immense and majestic. "Master, this is?" Jiang Macho asked in confusion. "Control your fire like this?" The Lord of Nihility said, holding out a small flame on his fingertip. The fire was tiny, so delicate it seemed a single breath could extinguish it. Jiang Macho quickly mimicked it, puzzled, waiting for further instruction. "Use this flame to melt the entire snow mountain," the Lord of Nihility said with a smile. "And during that time, the flame must not go out. If it does, you start over." "That's impossible," Jiang Macho blurted out. "Truth always lies in the hands of a few," the Lord of Nihility said. "The things common people call impossible are often accomplished by those few. When you've melted the mountain, come find me." As the elder walked away, Jiang Macho stared at the flame in his hand in deep thought. He raised his hand slowly, but the moment the flame touched the snow mountain, it was extinguished. Jiang Macho frowned. In his mind, he recalled the Lord of Nihility's words. He believed the answer must be hidden in them. He began to control the fire again, thus starting his first of thousands of inevitable failures. In the northern garden city of the Middle Continent, a place unlike any other, long, long ago it was said that 3 ferocious beasts terrorized the region. The people of the city were raised like livestock by the beasts, kept as food. At the gates of Northern Garden City, 3 statues stood as a silent reminder of that history. Chapter 206 3 Ferocious Beasts. The 3 statues were of terrifying beasts, each grotesque and menacing. They were the primordial leopard, the double-bright bird, and the flood dragon mastiff turtle. What puzzled the residents of Northern Garden City most was that these 3 statues had stood there long before the city was ever founded. Their origin was lost to time. Some say the statues had been there even before Northern Garden City existed. More strangely, they couldn't be moved or destroyed. A powerful cultivator in the Empyrean Meridian realm had once tried to forcibly relocate one, but suffered severe backlash and was forced to flee with grave injuries. For generations, the legend of the 3 ferocious beasts had circulated through the city. No one knew who started the tale, nor what the statues truly meant. The Tan clan was one of the most prestigious clans in Northern Garden City, with an illustrious ancestor known as the Sun Chaser Ancient God. That ancestor had come alone to the city long ago, founded the Tan clan, and brought it to prominence. After generations of accumulation, the Tan clan had become a formidable powerhouse. Yet what the people of the city loved to talk about most weren't the clan's roots, but the 3 daughters of the patriarch, Tan Yongling. In this generation, the Tan clan's direct bloodline was quite thin. Tan Yongling had always wished for a son to carry on the family legacy, but fate denied him. His first 2 children were daughters. When a concubine became pregnant for the 3rd time, Tan Yongling pinned all his hopes on having a son. Ironically, the 3rd child was yet another daughter. Worse, she was born mute and had a striking birthmark on her face. Given the Tan clan's resources, healing her afflictions should have been easy. But Tan Yongling, furious over his failed hopes, saw her as a curse from the heavens and directed all his resentment at this unwanted 3rd daughter. He ordered that no one was allowed to treat her birthmark or her muteness. As the 3 daughters grew up, they each became famous in Northern Garden City. Unlike their younger sister, the 2 elder daughters were raised in luxury and indulgence. Their fame came mostly from being arrogant and unreasonable. But the 3rd daughter, Tangeline, was different, kind-hearted and gentle. Though she was of low status within the Tan clan and often mistreated, she frequently helped the citizens of Northern Garden City without expecting anything in return. She became well-known and loved by the people, who affectionately called her Fairy Lin. Despite the fierce and terrifying birthmark on her face, the nickname wasn't about her appearance. It was to praise her pure, angelic heart. Walking out of the Tan estate, Tangeline thought back to her family's twisted faces and sneered with a helpless shake of her head. She was naturally calm and unambitious, avoiding conflict when she could. But in a noble clan like hers, she knew that schemes and power struggles were inevitable. "Good day, Fairy Lin. Have you eaten, Fairy Lin? Want to try some of my buns? Fresh from the steamer." As the townspeople greeted her warmly along the street, Tangeline smiled and responded with sign language, for she could not speak. She wore a light blue dress, her long hair neatly tied behind her. Her large, expressive eyes sparkled with life. Her slender waist was cinched by a soft green sash. From the left, she looked stunning, so much so that anyone would be struck by her beauty. But the birthmark on the right side of her face often left people pitying her misfortune. Tangeline was never ashamed of her birthmark. She never tried to hide it. Lifting the hem of her skirt slightly, she stepped outside the city like a carefree sprite dancing in the wind. At the banks of the Willow River, a young man in lavish robes held a folding fan, gazing out over the breathtaking scenery. Quietly, a young girl crept up behind him and embraced him. He turned with a smile and said excitedly, "Linner, you're finally here." The girl smiled warmly, her face glowing with happiness. "Did you bring what I asked for?" the young man asked quickly. She nodded and took a book from her chest. Its cover was dull yellow with 4 large characters on it. "Sun Chaser Goddard. I stole this from my elder sister. It's our family's heirloom technique," Tangeline signed. "You can learn it, but don't give it to anyone else." "Don't worry, Linner," the young man said as he embraced her tightly, speaking with deep affection. "You've done so much for me. I don't even know how to thank you." Tangeline just smiled and gently shook her head. The sound of a sword plunging into flesh. Her smile froze. She slowly released him and turned to look at her back. A long sword was buried deep in her body, clearly visible and horrifying. "Why?" she asked silently, eyes full of confusion. "I really didn't know how to thank you," the young man said, suddenly grinning maniacally. "So I'll just send you to die." He stabbed her dozens of times, then kicked her into the scenic river. Her lifeless body sank beneath the water, drifting away with the current. The young man then opened the book in his hand. It still carried the faint fragrance of the girl's body. "If not for this cultivation technique, how could I ever pretend to like an ugly freak like you?" Darkness, cold, despair. Tangeline felt her consciousness grow heavy. It was like a dream, but one where she remembered nothing. Her body floated, guided by an unseen current. She didn't know how long she drifted. Her awareness dimmed further and further. She wanted to sleep, but she was afraid if she fell asleep, she might never wake again. Her wounds still bled. Trails of blood drifted deep through the river, attracting swarms of underwater beasts. She didn't know how long she floated, when suddenly, a deafening roar shattered the silence. The world around her grew still. A massive beast, long buried at the bottom of the sea, was bound in chains. Its life was nearly at its end. "If I must wait a few more centuries, and no one comes by then," the beast half closed its eyes and sighed. Just then, the scent of blood reached it. Raising its head, it saw a corpse drifting toward it, surrounded by beasts fighting over it. But strangely, none dared approach her directly. They wanted to devour the corpse, but feared something. They circled her, waiting. Chapter 207, Evil God List. The deep-sea behemoth's pupils shrank sharply at the sight before it, letting out a thunderous roar toward the heavens. The sound waves shook the ocean floor, and a silent tsunami roared through the waters above. Seeing this, the surrounding sea creatures quickly fled, not daring to approach any closer. The giant beast's form was peculiar. Its head resembled a dragon, emanating divine majesty, while its body looked like a turtle, bearing a gilded golden shell on its back. As the girl's corpse slowly floated toward it, the behemoth murmured softly, "Is everything in this world truly preordained?" When the body reached the beast's side, it lowered its head and carefully examined the young girl. Spirit force surged from the beast, and waves rose high, rolling into a massive tsunami. The gilded shell on its back began to shimmer. Finally, a box slowly rose from the shell. The box was pentagonal, glowing faintly with dark light. The behemoth lifted the box and opened it with a click. In that moment, it was as if space and time had been torn apart, releasing an ancient presence sealed within. Dust surged outward, and black mist filled the sea. Inside the box were only two items: a pearl and a pitch-black, material unknown ranking tablet. The moment the box opened, the black tablet released endless killing aura, with black light soaring into the sky, flattening the entire sea floor with its terrifying pressure. "Why'd you wake me up, little turtle?" A deep, magnetic male voice echoed from within the black tablet. "My lord." The behemoth immediately bowed, speaking reverently. "The one you've been waiting for. She's arrived." Upon hearing this, black mist from the tablet surged out, wrapping around Tangeline's corpse. "So, in this life, the demon sovereign is destined to awaken once again," sighed the voice from the tablet. "My lord, I have upheld our ancient pact. May I finally be freed?" The giant turtle asked tentatively. "Tell her yourself once she awakens." "I'm not the one who decides," the voice replied. As the voice faded, the black tablet transformed into a stream of light and entered Tangeline's body. Black mist surrounded her. Dark fog rolled across her skin and wrapped her tightly. Soon, a giant black cocoon formed around her. Something inside was being reborn. The sound of a heartbeat echoed clearly from within. Day after day, the ocean's spiritual energy poured into the cocoon. This phenomenon lasted for a full month. Then, one winter morning in December, snow blanketed the surface of the ocean, freezing its vast waters solid. At the bottom of the sea, the cocoon began to crack. Crack, crack. The behemoth's massive eyes stared intently at the cocoon. Boom! The cocoon shattered into countless fragments. From within, a black light dissipated, and Tangeline slowly opened her eyes. All visions and anomalies in heaven and earth faded. She looked at the beast in front of her and instantly paled, her whole body trembling. "Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you," the behemoth quickly said, trying to look cute and friendly. "Where am I?" Tangeline backed away, scanning the surroundings cautiously. She asked using sign language. "You're mute." The behemoth blinked. A golden light radiated from its hand and entered her body. Immediately, her birthmark disappeared, and she opened her mouth, coughing softly. I can talk now. I can talk." Tangeline cried out, overwhelmed. "That's nothing. After you see this, you'll understand everything." The black tablet, shrouded in dark mist, floated before her, releasing a beam of light into her body. At the dawn of this world, when the legendary era had just begun and cultivation was in its infancy, 3 ferocious beasts awakened across the land, their nature cruel and bloodthirsty. They slaughtered countless living beings. Humanity was too inexperienced in cultivation to stop them. One day, a shepherd boy came from the edge of the world, riding a green ox. He pointed at the sky. Golden light surged through the heavens and suppressed all 3 beasts in an instant. This golden light shattered their divine souls and absorbed them into itself. Over tens of thousands of years, the golden light, corrupted by the beast's hatred and nourished by the sun and moon, finally evolved into a ranking board. Its name, Evil God List, because the black board had fused with the 3 beasts' divine souls before its formation. It gained consciousness and the power to control their fates. If the Evil God List erased their souls, the 3 beasts in the real world would die. The 3 beasts were Primordial Leopard, Double Bright Bird, Flood Dragon Mastiff Turtle, the giant beast before her. Before leaving, the shepherd left orders. The Flood Dragon Mastiff Turtle would guard the seafloor, awaiting someone destined. He left behind the Evil God List and a pearl, which was one of the 3 pearls that make up the Army Breaker Imperial Physique. Seeing these sealed memories, Tangeline stood frozen for a long time before she finally recovered her senses. "You're..." The flood dragon mastiff turtle? She asked curiously. Yes. According to the ancient sage's orders, once you arrived, I would be free, the turtle replied excitedly. But what am I supposed to do? She asked. We are now one, the voice from the evil god List replied. You already carry my legacy. Just recall what's been passed to you, you'll understand. Tangeline nodded and closed her eyes. Soon, a flood of new knowledge surged into her mind. This was the inheritance of the evil god List, how to use it and what it was for. Moments later, her body surged with spirit force. Power gathered from the surrounding heavens and earth. Of course, all of it came from the evil god List. Her own cultivation level remained at the Meridian Forging realm. As black aura wrapped around her, she slowly rose into the air, massive waves forming beneath her feet. The entire sea roared. The terrifying scene sent sea creatures fleeing and burying themselves in the ocean floor, too terrified to move. Then, Tangeline raised the evil god List in her hand. With a wave of her glowing palm, a beastly image appeared on the surface of the board. Chapter 208 Army Breaker Imperial Physique. The beastly image was none other than the flood dragon mastiff turtle. Its head raised high between heaven and earth, towering waves roaring behind it. In Tangeline's right hand, black spirit force swirled as ripples spread across the surface of the evil god List. A small spatial gate opened up from within it. From the gate, a beam of light shot out and merged into the body of the flood dragon mastiff turtle. As soon as the light entered, the giant beast let out a deafening roar. The chains binding its massive body burst into flames and, boom, all the chains shattered. A beastly might, powerful enough to destroy heaven and earth, erupted from its body, sweeping across the entire seabed. The flood dragon mastiff turtle raised its head slightly, then bowed twice respectfully toward Tangeline before its figure vanished into the sea in a surge of spirit force. At the same time, in Northern Garden City, one of the three ancient statues at the city gates, older even than the city itself, cracked apart. In the middle continent, deep within a vast and boundless mountain range, inside a pitch-black cave lay a dormant volcano. Within the magma at its core, intense flames melted the surrounding space. Violent spatial storms raged through the air. The storms stirred up waves of molten lava, which splashed against the burning rock walls. In the depths beneath the lava, a gloomy eye slowly opened. In that moment, the entire magma pool roared to life. Explosions shook the underground as if the volcano were on the verge of erupting. Thousands of miles above, a floating island hovered in midair, radiating waves of dense immortal energy. A white mist cloaked the island, which was chained in place by massive links of divine metal. Deep within that mist, another eye opened. The seal of the flood dragon mastiff turtle has broken. Seems the prophesied one has finally appeared. On the ocean's surface, endless snow had frozen everything. Amid the silence, a sharp crackling noise echoed through the still air, continued for a long time until, boom, the frozen surface of the sea shattered. A soaked figure climbed up from the depths. Tangeline sneezed, hugging her arms as she stood in soaked clothes. So cold, she muttered, glancing around. She recognized the sea, Rolling Cloud Sea, the largest body of water near Northern Garden City. The river she'd been pushed into was a tributary of this sea. It made sense, her body had drifted along the river's current into Rolling Cloud Sea. But the sea was vast, so large she had no idea where she had washed ashore. She looked up, surveying her surroundings. She didn't know how much had changed during her month-long disappearance. Maybe they didn't even notice I was gone, she said with a bitter smile, her thoughts drifting to that man. Her face darkened, caught between rage and sorrow. Let me take you for some training, the voice from the evil god List said calmly. Your current mindset is nowhere near strong enough to become a true cultivator, let alone seek revenge. Tangeline was silent for a moment, then nodded. Just as she prepared to leave, the sky suddenly twisted, clouds surged, winds howled, and boundless spirit force rippled through the air. Even the falling snow stopped. Looking up, she saw a giant bird descending from the heavens, hovering above her. It was deep blue with sharp barbs lining each of its feathers. Its cry echoed for miles, piercing and shrill. Most oddly, each eye had two pupils. Double bright bird, Tangeline gasped. Looks like you already know who I am, the bird said calmly. You've come to earn your freedom from the evil god List too? She asked curiously. Exactly. Double bright bird nodded and slowly descended. Its massive form stopped in front of her. With a proud tilt of its head, it spit out a pearl from its mouth. For countless millennia, I've flown across mountains and forests, endured endless hardship, and finally found the second pearl of the Army Breaker Imperial Physique, it said softly. I offer it now in exchange for my freedom. What do you say? Tangeline paused, silently pondering the offer. I'll also give you 3 of my feathers, Double Bright Bird quickly added, sensing her hesitation. Burn 1, and I'll appear to help you unconditionally. 3 feathers 3 times. Before she could respond, a loud voice boomed from afar. Old Featherbag, you really went all out just to get free, didn't you? Tangeline turned and saw a massive, flaming form slowly approaching from the horizon. Blazing fire reflected across the heavens, even setting the clouds ablaze in molten light. As the creature neared, she saw that it was a leopard. But not an ordinary one. It had 3 heads, each a different color. Black, white, red. Its body was covered in spots of all 3 colors. It looked powerful and intimidating, its sharp fangs gleaming even from afar. The stench of blood radiated from its entire being.
Primordial Leopard, Tangeline murmured.
Featherbag, who are you calling names? Double Bright Bird snapped. Talking about you, old Featherbag, Primordial Leopard taunted. All 3 heads spoke in unison. The bird flared its aura and coldly snorted. I'm not stooping to your level. Old Featherbag, I've never lost an argument, the black head said smugly. Yup, still just as prickly after all these years, the white head sneered. The red head laughed and shouted, Primordial Leopard rules. And you, Double Bright Bird sneered. What have you brought for your freedom? The Primordial Leopard grinned and also spat out a pearl, offering it to Tangeline. This is the 3rd pearl of the Army Breaker Imperial Physique. With it, you now have all 3 needed to awaken the 2nd-ranked battle physique. Think about it, it said with a smile. Among the 100 battle physiques, the 2nd battle physique is insanely powerful. It can reshape anyone's fate, especially someone like you. Chapter 209 Saintus Bailey Shao. I offer this pearl for my freedom, what do you say? Said Primordial Leopard. As the black head finished speaking, the red head added, Of course. That Featherbag already gave you 3 of his life-saving feathers. We can't be stingy either. If you're willing, I can temper your body with my stellar violet flame. Think about it. With our help, you could instantly rise above the rest, surpassing even the most gifted geniuses. The heads said in unison. Should I accept? Tangeline hesitated, then asked the evil god List within her. From my perspective, yes, you should. The voice from the ranking replied. But I am only your guide. Every decision you make must come from you. Not from hesitation, not from others' opinions. You must learn to be independent, to endure and experience this twisted world. Only then can you grow. Tangeline exhaled deeply. She looked at the Primordial Leopard and the Double Bright Bird, then finally nodded. I accept, she said. Across a vast river, a massive ship raced across the water like an arrow loosed from a bow. The sky was crystal clear, bright blue like it had been painted by the gods. When the ship reached the center of the river, it slowed. Su Zimo stood in the cabin, gazing at the endless water with deep eyes. Young man, where are you from? An elderly man nearby asked with a smile. My wife and I are from Martial Magnificence Mountain. At this point, aside from the Yuan Imperial clan's own crew, there were only 4 groups of actual passengers on board. Su Zimo and Little Gue were one group. The elderly couple was another. The third was a solitary young woman. and the fourth group consisted of black-clad individuals, fully armored and silent. The young woman and the black-clad group hadn't stepped out of the cabin once since boarding. "Martial Magnificence Mountain, that's a fine place," Su Zimo said with a smile. "I'm from Primordial Ancient City." "I'm Wu Qianjun," the elder said with a kind grin. "May I know your name?" "The head of Martial Magnificence Mountain?" Su Zimo raised a brow with interest. "I'm Su Zimo." Martial Magnificence Mountain was a renowned landmark in the Eastern Continent, home to Martial Magnificence Temple, famous for its unique practices. They did not worship Buddha but instead enshrined a grotesque demonic statue. There were 36 blessed caverns scattered across the mountain, each with its own legend. Every spring, the mountain opened to visitors. Their method of accepting disciples was bizarre. Each candidate had to draw their inner demon before the temple's idol. No one knew what criteria they used to judge. "Is young Master Su going to attend the Saintess ceremony of the Bailey Imperial clan?" the elder asked. "No, just sightseeing," Su Zimo smiled. "Who is the Saintess?" The moment Saintess was mentioned, the first person Su Zimo thought of was Bailey Xiao. "I heard she's the recently recovered daughter of the clan leader Bailey Chengfeng," Wu Qianjun replied. "Her name is Bailey Xiao." The Holy Sun and Saintess positions of the Bailey Imperial clan are fiercely contested. Surprisingly, Bailey Xiao earned the elder's overwhelming support not long after returning. Now she's favored to be the Saintess.
Su Zimo Chukka.
The script feels off. He didn't believe that Bailey Xiao, based solely on her own abilities, could rise so fast in a powerful imperial lineage like the Bailey Imperial clan. "There's only one explanation," he muttered, gazing at the river. "Someone's residual soul has awakened early." In his past life, Chu Yang had stormed the true martial sacred ground alone. Challenging an imperial lineage backed by 4 grand emperors took guts, but not just guts. Beyond the Sky Shroud war god being held off by the Lord of Samsara, the key was that the generals of Grand Empress Hongtian's line sided with Chu Yang. The sacred lord had to personally step in. Su Qingshan's hair turned white overnight, and he vanished into seclusion. Back then, Su Zimo didn't understand it. He was hiding, focused only on revenge. But he quietly collected news on Chu Yang and Bailey Xiao. Later, he understood. The reason Bailey Xiao received Grand Empress Hongtian's inheritance was because it had all been arranged long ago. Lin Yuqing, First War General of Grand Empress Hongtian, now known as Soaring Goose Ancestor, one of the 4 surviving ancestors of true martial sacred ground. Su Zimo's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Bailey Xiao, don't die yet. We still have unfinished business." As Su Zimo and Wu Qianjun continued chatting, the cabin door suddenly swung open. A woman in armor-like clothing stepped out. Though her attire resembled battle armor, it was soft to the touch, more like fabric than metal. But it still outlined her curvy figure perfectly. She had short hair, a delicate oval face, and sharp eyes that radiated lethal energy. She looked composed and deadly, crisp, clean, and efficient. When she appeared, little Gui's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He stared, completely captivated. "What's wrong?" "Like what you see," Su Zimo asked with a grin. "She's exactly my type." Little Gui nodded fervently. "Then go chase her. And if that fails, force it. I'm with you." Su Zimo clapped him on the shoulder. Inspired, little Gui fixed his clothes and boldly approached the woman. The wind lifted the girl's hair as she stared calmly into the distance. "Miss, I'm Zhang Gillan. May I know your name?" Little Gui asked with a smile. "Yao Shengnan," she replied, glancing briefly at Su Zimo. "Strong name for a strong woman. Who says men are better than women?" Little Gui praised. Yao Shengnan gave a small nod but said nothing more. The silence was awkward. "Where are you headed, miss?" Little Gui asked again after a moment. This time she didn't answer immediately. She stayed quiet for a long while, then finally turned her head and said, "I have an enemy in an imperial lineage. If you're willing to help me take revenge, I'll give you anything you want." Chapter 210 The Celestial Race. Hearing Yao Xingnan's words, little Gui froze. So direct. If not, then don't waste my time, she replied flatly, turning back to gaze at the river. Seeing little Gui's awkward expression, Su Zimo walked over with a light chuckle. Destroying an imperial lineage isn't impossible, he said. But you're not worth that price. Yao Xingnan instantly turned to stare at him for a long moment before replying coldly. Anyone can talk big. Whether it's big talk or not, it depends on vision and perspective. Su Zimo shook his head with a smile. To you, an imperial lineage may seem unreachable. To me, it's just another step. How do you prove you have the strength? She asked, locking eyes with him. I don't need to prove anything, Su Zimo said calmly. Yao Xingnan was silent for a long time, then slowly said, If you help me destroy that sect, I'll tell you something about the Tree of Life. Seeing his expression, she quickly added, Maybe you don't know what the Tree of Life is. I can explain. No need, Su Zimo interrupted. I know a bit about it. At that moment, a voice stirred inside his storage ring, coming from the Leaf of Life. Impossible! The Tree of Life transcends destiny itself. It's not even recorded in the River of Fate. Unless she's from the celestial race. Let me think about it, Su Zimo said to Yao Xingnan. She paused, then nodded and returned to her cabin. There were thousands of races in the world, and though Su Zimo had only learned a little about the celestial race, he knew they were shrouded in mystery. According to legend, the celestial race were favored by the heavens, born with a leaf of life as a companion. Each member of their race possessed a unique leaf of life, which greatly extended their lifespans. But they never showed themselves publicly. No one knew where they lived, and records of them were incredibly rare. Su Zimo turned his thoughts inward and said to the Leaf of Life, Tell me everything you know about the celestial race. First, tell me, when will you let me go? The leaf's spirit asked. Maybe when I find the Tree of Life and I'm in a good mood, Su Zimo smirked. Besides, you're safer with me than out there. Consider this protective custody. You couldn't possibly hold on to the Tree of Life even if you found it, the leaf snapped. Such a thing is far beyond your grasp. That's not your concern, Su Zimo replied. Start talking. Once we find the tree, I'll release you. You don't really have a choice. The Leaf of Life sighed and began. The celestial race is unique. Their race possesses a portal that leads directly to the alternate dimension where the Tree of Life resides. Long ago, before I was separated from the tree, I once met someone from their race. They may be the only beings in this world truly connected to the Tree of Life. Their lifespans are incredibly long thanks to the Leaves of Life. They could easily surpass humanity and dominate the world, but they can't reproduce normally. It's said that when a man and woman of the celestial race mate, the woman absorbs all the man's vital energy, killing him. Then, when she gives birth, her life force is drained by the child, and she dies as well. Every birth results in 2 children, 1 male, 1 female. That rule has never changed. I see, Su Zimo nodded. With every pair of births, both parents die. 2 lives born at the cost of 2 lives lost. That's why the celestial race will never grow in number. As night fell, the wide river reflected a quiet twilight. A few scattered stars dotted the sky, moonless and cold. The Yuan clan's guards patrolled the ship as usual. A chilly breeze drifted over the deck.
Suddenly, boom!
An explosion rocked the vessel, shaking the entire ship and rousing everyone aboard. Torrential waves rose on all sides. The ship gradually came to a stop on the river's surface. What's going on? The Yuan clan commander rushed out of the cabin, his voice amplified with spirit force, echoing through the ship. Commander Yuan. It looks like the control room was attacked. A scream interrupted the sentence, followed by eerie silence. A transparent barrier had previously protected the ship, but now it was fading. From the control room, a group of black-clad men emerged. They were the 4th group of passengers who had boarded earlier. What do you want? The commander demanded, his spirit force flaring. He barely finished speaking when over 100 black-robed figures descended from the sky. Their powerful auras linked together, shaking the entire ship. "Who are you people?" the commander asked, swallowing hard. "Dark Primordials," a calm voice replied, and in that instant, all hell broke loose. Dozens of the black-robed attackers landed on the ship like wolves among sheep, beginning a bloody massacre. The rest hovered above, blocking any chance of escape. Screams rang out. In minutes, most of the Yuan clan crew had been wiped out. "Senior brother, do you think the dark primordial race came for revenge?" Little Gue asked nervously. Su Zimo just smiled. Beside him stood the mad blood demon, silent like a loyal guardian. Any black-robed attacker who came close was instantly obliterated by the old demon's fist. Nearly 100 enemies surrounded Su Zimo until they parted automatically, opening a path ahead. A black figure stepped forward from the shadows. As he emerged, the space around him shattered, unable to withstand the pressure of his aura. He walked with the weight and presence of a king of shadows. His footsteps echoed like drums of death, thundering in the hearts of all present. Step by step, he approached Su Zimo. Chapter 211, Death God Qin. As the figure stepped forward, his body emanated an endless wave of immortal energy. Space shattered around him, and the deck beneath his feet cracked with every step. "You're one of the few who dares to openly challenge our dark primordial race," the black figure said coldly, eyes fixed on Su Zimo. "I'm just curious," Su Zimo smiled. "Which of the 10 death gods are you?" "Death God Qin," the shadowy man replied in a deep voice. He slowly lifted his head. His face was deathly pale, covered in purple markings resembling ancient curse seals. "Clear the others out. Let's talk alone," Su Zimo said calmly. Death God Qin chuckled. "I don't know where your confidence comes from. Let your God Meridian Beast come out. If that's your trump card, I'm afraid it's not enough to negotiate with me."
Su Zimo smiled finally.
Suddenly, endless demonic energy gathered in the air. In that moment, Death God Qin felt like some ancient, dreadful existence had set its eyes on him. The aura was suffocating. Spirit force surged around him. He coldly glared at the magic haze without replying. "I think you misunderstood something," Su Zimo said with a calm grin. "I'm willing to talk with you. That's me showing you respect. If not for the value I see in dark primordial race's strength, someone like you wouldn't even be qualified." Death God Qin didn't argue this time. He could clearly feel the terror within that demonic force. With a wave of his hand, the 100 shadowed figures around them silently disappeared into the darkness. The cool night wind blew across the river, and the ship, once again, resumed its journey. "What do you want to talk about?" Death God Qin asked from the deck, his tone flat. "Have you heard of Buddhist Burial Temple?" Su Zimo asked. "One of the 10 forbidden grounds. Its name rings loud." Death God Qin's expression sharpened slightly. "There's something in there I need," Su Zimo said. "What's that got to do with us? You want something from there too, don't you?" Su Zimo turned to look at him. During his time drifting through the River of Fate, led by the primordial chaos bead, he had seen many events unfold. Among them, dark primordial races past. "How do you know that?" Death God Qin's face changed slightly. "That's not important," Su Zimo said. "So? Want to cooperate?" "No need," Death God Qin replied coldly. "If the dark primordial race wants something, we'll take it ourselves. If this were the dark primordial race of the desolate era, I'd believe you," Su Zimo said. "But now, of the so-called 10 death gods, how many remain? How many of you are still battle-worthy?" Death God Qin was silent for a moment before replying evenly. "That's none of your concern. We don't need allies, just as we once stood alone against the 3 great races. I'm just offering advice. Think it over," Su Zimo said with a smile. "Until I find another partner, the offer stands. If this is all you wanted, then we're done here," Death God Qin said as he turned his back, voice calm. "You know how important that item is to you?" Su Zimo smiled. And we've no grudge. Wouldn't mutual benefit be better? You stole the fruit of dark primordial race's research of 1,000,000 years. Death God Qin replied flatly. Stole?
No, Sucimo Chakel.
Call it shared custody. With that, he turned and walked back into the cabin. Think it over. Death God Qin stood there silently for a long time before slowly vanishing into the darkness. The night passed in silence. When the morning sun warmed the deck, the surviving passengers stepped out, nervous and shaken. Only Su Zimo, Little Gue, the elderly Martial Magnificence mountain couple, and Yao Shengnan remained. The Yuan clan had been completely wiped out. Their bodies lay in the cabins, dried blood congealing in thick, rotting pools. Thank you for saving our lives, young master, said Wu Qianjun, head of Martial Magnificence Mountain, bowing in gratitude. Had it not been for Su Zimo, they'd have died like the Yuan clan, cold corpses staining the deck. They weren't planning to kill you anyway, Su Zimo smiled. Are you connected to dark primordial race? Yao Shengnan asked flatly. Whether I am or not, I owe you no explanation, Su Zimo replied. Dark primordial race is the enemy of all races. You should understand that, Yao Shengnan said. Never trust only what your eyes see, Su Zimo said, shaking his head. What you call truth is just history written by the victors. The real truth has long been buried beneath the dust of time. I believe what you said before, Yao Shengnan said after a pause. What did I say? Su Zimo asked. That you have the power to destroy an imperial lineage, she said, one word at a time. So how about it? Let's make a deal. Help me destroy that lineage, and I'll give you the exact location of the World Tree. Now it's your turn to convince me, Su Zimo smiled. I'm a celestial, I assume you've guessed that, Yao Shengnan said, eyes distant as she gazed at the river. In our clan, there is a mother leaf of the Tree of Life. With it and our clan's unique teleportation array, one can reach the tree itself. That alone isn't convincing, Su Zimo said, shaking his head. When I left the clan, I took the mother leaf and hid it somewhere safe, she continued. I'm willing to give you the mother leaf first. You're not afraid I'll break my promise? Su Zimo asked with a grin. I am, she admitted. That's why I'll only give you the mother leaf. After you destroy that imperial lineage, I'll teach you our teleportation method. Otherwise, the leaf is just a worthless scrap to you. She paused a long time, then added in a hoarse voice, also, don't bother trying to ask any other Celestials about the array. Why not? Because, she said quietly, I'm the last one. So, it was that sect that wiped out your people? That's why you want revenge? Su Zimo asked with a faint smile. Just answer me. Will you help or not? Yao Shengnan asked calmly. But in that calm, he could still see a hint of desperate hope. Chapter 212 God Lord. Bring the mother leaf to me first. Then we'll talk, Su Zimo said. Where should I find you? Yao Shengnan asked. Let little Gue go with you. When the time comes, come to the Bailey Imperial clan together. Su Zimo replied with a smile. After 5 days adrift, the massive ship finally docked slowly at the shore. During this time, the ship's direction was controlled by the couple from Martial Magnificence Mountain. Young Master Su, great kindness needs no thanks. If you ever need anything, feel free to come to Martial Magnificence Temple. Wu Qianjun said earnestly to Su Zimo before he left. I will. I imagine it won't be long before we meet again, Su Zimo said with a smile and a nod. As the couple from Martial Magnificence Mountain stepped into the air and departed, Little Gue also left with Yao Shengnan to retrieve the mother leaf of the Tree of Life. The enormous ship docked at a large harbor. The harbor was extremely busy, bustling with people, and countless ships from the north and south were anchored here. As the ship came to a stop, a group from the Yuan clan, already waiting at the dock, immediately boarded. Commander Yuan, did you bring the goods? We can't afford any mishaps with the gift to congratulate the Bailey Imperial clan on the Saintus ceremony. A loud voice called from below the cabin. A young man in a white robe ascended the ship accompanied by a middle-aged man, followed by dozens of Yuan clan servants. When the young man stepped aboard, the large cabin was eerily silent. Other than the corpses of the Yuan clan members, no one else was there. What happened here? The young man's face changed dramatically as he stared at the bodies strewn across the ship. The middle-aged man beside him frowned slightly, stepped up to the dead Commander Yuan, and opened his storage ring. From it, he took out a pale blue box. After opening it and seeing the simple jade inside was still there, he let out a slight sigh of relief. It wasn't for money. Then what were they after? The Bailey Imperial clan has a history that dates back tens of thousands of years, to the beginning of the Imperial era. Back then, a man named Bailey Chongkong emerged, wielding the world-destroying bow and the 1,000 calamity arrows. During the struggle for the heaven's will, he once shot 18 arrows in succession, suppressing the entire firmament. No one could get close to him. In the end, he shot the arrow that decided the world and bore the heaven's will of that age. Under his protection, the Bailey Imperial clan rapidly rose to power. Su Zimo walked along the coastline heading north. The endless river here splits the core area of the eastern continent in half. It also serves as the dividing line between the Qi and Bailey Imperial clan. As night fell, he arrived at a city. Hornless Dragon City. The glow of the setting sun shone from behind the city, bathing the ancient city in golden light. Birds flew across the sky, entangled with the twilight clouds. White clouds reflected in the dusk became fiery red. The name Hornless Dragon City comes from a mythical beast. Legend says that when the hornless dragon was young, it was abandoned by the riverbank. A couple from the city found and raised it. Several generations ago, a great war broke out between the Bailey and Qi imperial clans. When the Qi imperial clan elders came to slaughter the city, it was the hornless dragon that stalled them. Eventually, the Bailey imperial clan arrived and saved the city, but the hornless dragon sacrificed its life. At the top of the city sits a statue of a creature that is dragon-like, yet not quite a dragon. It was cast in memory of the hornless dragon. Entering the city, one would find that it's actually quite small. The streets are not prosperous, and there are few people. Bare trees line both sides of the streets, adding to the bleakness of the scene. Su Zimo found an inn in the city and planned to stay for the night before heading to the Bailey Imperial clan the next day. On this vast land, the Bailey Imperial clan resides in the southeastern part of their territory. They live in Bailey City, which differs from the Qi clan's residence. The Qi clan city is exclusive to its core and branch clan members. Outsiders are not allowed to live there. But in Bailey City, anyone can settle down. It's said that long ago, Bailey City was also inhabited solely by the Bailey Imperial clan. Later, more and more people settled around it. The Bailey Imperial clan didn't object, so over time, the population grew and the city expanded, eventually becoming comparable in size to great cities like Primordial Ancient City. Su Zimo picked a familiar window seat. In the inn, small groups of people were scattered about. Most were discussing the upcoming Saintus ceremony of the Bailey Imperial clan. "Big brother, would you like to buy a flower?" A soft voice suddenly rang out beside him. Su Zimo turned his head and saw a young girl holding a flower basket, timidly standing before him. Though her clothes were ragged, they were scrupulously clean. As he looked at her face, he felt a strange sense of familiarity, like he'd seen her somewhere before. "Big brother, would you like to buy a flower?" The girl asked again, biting her lip. "Sure," Su Zimo replied with a smile. "What kind of flower would you like? What kind of flower do you think is best for offering to the dead?" Su Zimo asked. The girl was momentarily stunned. Then she giggled. "So Big Brother still remembers me. 10 Mile Town. Hu Yingying. The Nightmare Beast," Su Zimo said with a faint smile, listing a few keywords. He had nearly forgotten that incident. Back then, to cultivate a branch of the River of Fate, he had obtained the Nightmare Beast in advance and had a brief conflict with the Divine Gate. But as the primordial chaos bead awakened and he began treading the path of creation, the Nightmare Beast became more of a burden than a treasure. "Big brother, shall we talk here, or somewhere more private?" Hu Yingying smiled and added, "Don't worry. We won't hurt you. We just want to make a deal." "Lead the way, little sister," Su Zimo replied with a smile and stood up. The two of them walked through the empty streets. As the cold wind blew and dusk deepened, fewer and fewer people could be seen. They entered a secluded mansion within Hornless Dragon City. Inside the courtyard, an old man with a white beard sat under a poplar tree. There was a tea table set beneath it with a pot of freshly boiled tea. "The current holy son of the true martial sacred ground, your reputation precedes you," the old man said with a smile as Su Zimo approached.
I'm flattered.
"May I ask why the God Lord has summoned me?" Su Zimo calmly took a seat at the tea table and smiled lightly. "You recognize me?" The old man was momentarily taken aback, then laughed. "Interesting. Very interesting." Chapter 213, A Possible Living Emperor. Lord of the Divine Gate, Yin Wuhan. His name alone strikes fear across the entire eastern continent. Who hasn't heard of him? Su Zimo smiled as he casually poured himself a cup of tea. "The younger generation these days is truly remarkable," the old man said, waving his hand. Hu Yingying quietly withdrew from the courtyard. "Lord Yin, what business do you have with me?" Su Zimo asked with a smile. "A good thing. Let's hear it." Yin Wuhan smiled and said, "I'd like to borrow your lineage's heaven-devouring blade for a while. Don't worry, I'll return it afterward, intact." Upon hearing that, Su Zimo just smiled, silently spinning the teacup in his hand. The heaven-devouring blade was a Grand Emperor true treasure left behind by Grand Emperor Sandao. With Su Zimo's current status as the Holy Son, it wasn't entirely impossible for him to borrow it from the sect. "I've heard that you need nightmare beasts," Yin Wuhan said with a grin. "If you lend me the heaven-devouring blade, I can give you as many nightmare beasts as you want. You should know, they are rare and mostly found only in the Elden Lands." "What do you want the blade for?" Su Zimo asked, still smiling. "I'm afraid that's still a secret," Yin Wuhan replied with a grin. "It's just a trade. Your sect doesn't lose anything, and you gain something very valuable." "Sorry," Su Zimo said, shaking his head. "I no longer need nightmare beasts." "Then name your price." Yin Wuhan's eyes narrowed slightly, but he kept smiling. "Well," Su Zimo said, smiling as well, "I'd like to meet the God Emperor." At his words, a divine aura exploded from Yin Wuhan's body, shaking half the sky and shattering the surrounding space. Thunderous booms echoed through the heavens, and waves of energy rippled through the air. The tea table before them instantly shattered into dust, scattering in the wind. "Young man, you jest. The God Emperor ascended to the higher realms long ago. If you want to meet him, you'll have to bear the heaven's will and go seek him yourself." Yin Wuhan smiled coldly. "Oh, maybe I was mistaken then," Su Zimo said with a smile. "What do you mean by that?" Yin Wuhan asked with a sharp tone. "Nothing much. Since this trade isn't going anywhere, I'll take my leave," Su Zimo replied with a sigh. "Such a pity about the fine tea." As Su Zimo stood to leave, the pressure around Yin Wuhan intensified. His eyes narrowed as he said, "Since you've come this far, don't be in such a hurry. Perhaps we still have a score to settle." "You should settle it with him," Su Zimo said, pointing beside him. The space nearby twisted violently, and out stepped the Mad Blood Demon, his body emanating the might of the Empyrean Meridian realm, his gaze devoid of emotion. "What is that? A spirit body? A puppet?" Yin Wuhan frowned. A dull yellow glow surged around his fist, and he struck. With just one punch, shockwaves swept through the area, and both sides were forced to step back. That had only been a test, but Yin Wuhan was surprised. His opponent was stronger than expected. "Oh, by the way, Lord Yin," Su Zimo turned back from the doorway and smiled. "When I have the time, I'll pay the Elden Lands a visit to see the God Emperor myself." Watching Su Zimo leave, Yin Wuhan's frown deepened. The Mad Blood Demon then turned and obliterated Hu Yingying, who was hiding nearby, with a single punch, reducing her to ashes, before disappearing into the void once more. Just then, Several figures materialized out of thin air around Yin Wuhan, each radiating immense Empyrean pressure. Master, that kid is hiding something. I'll deal with the puppet. You guys grab him, we'll interrogate him slowly. One of the elders offered. No need. Yin Wuhan shook his head calmly. He definitely has stronger cards to play. Otherwise, he wouldn't be this confident. It's not worth the risk. We're just going to let him walk away? Another elder asked, clearly frustrated. That's no longer the point. What matters now is, our plan may have been exposed. Yin Wuhan said gravely. Return to the divine gate. Let the ancestor decide what comes next. Su Zimo returned to the inn, leaning by the window and watching the silent night unfold. The God Emperor's tale was well known. He once tried to rule the entire primordial heartlands and destroyed several imperial lineages along the way. But that fateful day, 3 grand emperors descended from the heavens. No one knew how that battle ended. However, Su Zimo had seen fragments of it in the River of Fate. Under the joint attack of those 3 grand emperors, the God Emperor was nearly killed. With no other choice, he self-destructed to escape death. For the grand emperors, descending to the mortal realm was already a great burden. Their time was limited. In the end, the God Emperor barely survived. But the heaven's will he once held had disappeared. His divine flame had been extinguished, and his soul shattered. Even if he survived, he would never again ascend to the Grand Emperor's throne. That was where the vision in the River of Fate ended. Su Zimo didn't know what happened afterward, but he was sure of one thing: the God Emperor was still alive. Perhaps he was the only living Grand Emperor in this era, even though his heaven's will was gone and his path to the Tao was severed. Morning in Hornless Dragon City. The night had yet to fully retreat. Su Zimo, carrying Shadow Tyrant, was already riding the Dark Sky Tiger out of the city, heading toward Bailey City. The morning light draped over the tall city walls. Dust lazily floated across the ground. Bailey City, by contrast, was alive and booming. Its morning was especially vibrant and packed with people. Sects from all directions had gathered here to celebrate the Saintus ceremony of the Bailey Imperial clan. Among them were not just minor sects, even several imperial lineages had shown up. These included the Supreme Primal Sacred Ground, the Blood Nether Sacred Ground, and both the Dan and Mo imperial clans. Bailey City was divided into an inner and outer district. The inner district was home to the Bailey imperial clan's direct descendants. At this moment, within the lavish Bailey mansion, Bailey Xiao sat before a mirror in a luxurious room. She stared at her carefully made-up face and curled her lips in disdain. You promised me you'd kill Su Zimo. Otherwise, my lingering soul will haunt you for the rest of your life. Even if you bear the heaven's will, it won't let you rest. Lin Yuqing let out a soft laugh. Don't worry, I'll make sure you witness his death with your own eyes. The Saintus title of the Bailey Imperial clan is already mine. As for the true martial sacred ground, I've reached out to Grand Empress Hong Tian's faction. Junior sister Soaring Goose has agreed to help. As long as I return to the lineage, I'll regain the soaring immortal physique. From today on, my name is Bailey Xiao. I'll be watching you until the day Su Zimo dies. Only then will I finally disappear. Chapter 214. Can even the Infernal Lord not escape fate? The noonday sun drifted through the sky with the winter chill, as a few lone birds occasionally flew by overhead. Su Zimo rode the Dark Sky Tiger along the main road, passing by countless travelers. Some rode sage ships, others rode spirit beasts. Without exception, they were all heading to the Bailey Imperial clan to offer their congratulations. Master, do you know of the River of Fate? Paimon's voice echoed beside him, audible, yet unseen. I've personally witnessed the River of Fate's evolution, Su Zimo replied with a nod. All beings are bound by the River of Fate, Paimon said slowly. Legend has it that only by opening all 12 meridian gates can one transcend both self and the heavens, truly breaking free from fate. What are you trying to say? Su Zimo asked. Paimon was silent for a moment before he finally said, Your fate, too, is bound within the River of Fate, Master.
Su Yi Mo Fro Re.
He had almost forgotten one thing. He had observed the fate evolutions of countless others within the river of fate, but not once had he seen anything about his own. No one can foresee their own destiny, Paimon explained. You may see the destinies of others, but not your own. However, there are some truly powerful beings who can physically reach the river of fate itself. Su Zimo fell into thought, then said, If that's true, then in front of such beings, do secrets even exist? Can they just view anyone's destiny at will? No. Paimon shook his head. Having the ability to reach the river of fate and being able to view someone else's fate are two different things. Even if those godlike beings reach the river, they must pay a heavy price to view someone else's fate. To observe even a single being's destiny comes at a cost unimaginable. So how could they possibly peer into the destinies of all living beings? Only now did Su Zimo realize just how rare and powerful the primordial chaos bead in his possession truly was, allowing him to freely witness the evolutions of fate. Even those legendary great figures, if they reached the river of fate, could not do what he could. And for them, observing just one individual's destiny might demand an immense sacrifice. What are you really trying to say? Su Zimo asked, frowning. Perhaps someone has already paid that price to peer into your fate, Paimon said slowly. After all, your resurrection is no longer a secret. Su Zimo's eyes narrowed. He remembered something. He had previously sent little Gue to follow Jiang Macho. But in the end, Jiang was taken away by an old man. Before leaving, that old man had sent Su Zimo a message. Fate cannot be changed. Some destinies will come to pass no matter what. Who would want to know my fate? Su Zimo asked, narrowing his eyes. Your enemies from the past, Paimon quickly replied. If they know I've returned to life, why haven't they come to kill me yet? Su Zimo asked in confusion. The laws of this world restrain them. Until you inherit the Infernal Lord's legacy, they cannot directly interfere with or alter your destiny. They can only change the destinies of those around you to influence the course of your life, Paimon explained. Just like those waiting for you in the primordial demon cave. They also know you've been resurrected, but they too cannot act directly against you. Then why are you allowed to come to me directly? Su Zimo asked. I'm different, Paimon replied. Even if you hadn't resurrected in this life, I would still have emerged. This is my mission. Su Zimo frowned slightly. The feeling that someone was peering into his fate made him deeply uneasy. It would interfere with many things he planned to do. But fortunately, he had already come up with a way to resolve it. After 7 straight days of non-stop travel, Su Zimo finally arrived outside Bailey City by dusk. The Saintess ceremony of the Bailey Imperial clan was scheduled for the next day. The massive city loomed over the land, its grandeur crashing down like tidal waves, shaking the hearts of all who approached. Su Zimo, atop the dark sky tiger, slowly entered the city. It was lit brightly with lanterns and festive decorations. Though it was night, the city was even livelier than during the day. All the inns and taverns were packed. Su Zimo inquired at several inns but couldn't find a single room available. Of course, with his cultivation level, he no longer needed sleep. Eventually, he found a 3-story pavilion that still had open seating. The place only served food, no lodging rooms available. Su Zimo ascended slowly. The first and second floors were already full. Only the third floor had a few vacant seats. He picked one and sat down casually, ordering some wine and food while listening to the conversations around him. I heard the Bailey Imperial clan Saintess is named Bailey Xiao. No one really knows what she looks like. She used to live outside the clan for a long time and only recently returned. It's no surprise we haven't seen her before. Someone nearby sighed and said, I wish one day my parents would tell me I'm not their real son, and that my real father is the head of an imperial lineage. Why does stuff like this never happen to me? Step aside. I drank too much. Let me wake him up with a golden stream. Laughter erupted around them, and someone added, Don't think Bailey Xiao is just some lucky girl. To establish herself so quickly within an imperial clan and be chosen as Saintess, Her talent must be extraordinary. I heard she used to be a disciple of a major sect in the far west, someone said. A burly man in a black robe nearby laughed as he downed several cups of wine. Let me tell you guys, I've been to the far west recently. I know more than you do. Brother Zhang, tell us, what's the story? The group urged, turning toward the man with curiosity. They say Bailey Shao offended a sect in the far west and was almost killed on the spot. It was only thanks to the Bailey Imperial clan's patriarch, Bailey Changfeng, who rushed over and paid a huge price, that she was saved. Brother Zhang, you're not making this up, are you? Someone laughed. Who in the eastern continent would dare disrespect the Bailey Imperial clan enough to force Patriarch Changfeng to pay a steep price? True martial sacred ground, the man replied flatly. At those words, the entire room, previously filled with cheerful laughter, instantly fell silent. This sect, home to 4 emperors, loomed like a mountain above all others, suffocating everyone under its weight. Even though it only ruled the far western regions, its reputation sent tremors through the very heart of the eastern continent. Chapter 215, Some People You Can't Afford to Offend. Who's bad-mouthing my cousin Xiao behind her back? A voice came from the stairway leading to the 3rd floor of the pavilion. Moments later, a group of people ascended. At the front was a young man dressed in ornate brocade robes. I could hear your chatter all the way from the 2nd floor. The brocade-robed youth snorted coldly. Which one of you was gossiping? No idea. The burly man in black quickly shook his head. Do you all know what the punishment is for slandering the saintess of the Bailey Imperial clan? The youth said coldly. If no one steps up, then everyone here will come with me to the Bailey Imperial clan for questioning. At his words, all fingers pointed straight at the man in black. The man's face turned pale, and he instinctively stepped back. The brocade-robed youth slowly drew his long sword, walking forward with a sharp gleam in his eyes. The blade shimmered with deadly sword energy. Do you believe I could kill you right here, and no one would say a word? He said coldly. This is Bailey City. The burly man's body trembled slightly. He stepped back again but then mustered his courage. On what grounds would you kill me? Are you trying to break the city's laws? On the grounds that you slandered the Bailey Imperial clan saintess, the youth replied calmly. I didn't slander. Everything I said is true. Go ask around in the western region if you don't believe me, the burly man protested. Everyone on the 3rd floor fell silent, not daring to speak. Someone whispered, Who is that guy? He's acting like he has absolute authority, even ready to kill in the name of the Bailey Imperial clan. That's Yuan Hongyu, son of the current head of the Yuan clan, someone replied in a low voice. His sister married the eldest son of Bailey Changfeng, so their family is riding the Bailey Imperial clan's coattails. But honestly, the Yuan clan is just a second-rate power. The western region is too far for me to bother, Yuan Hongyu said indifferently. If you're telling the truth, then someone here should be able to back you up. If anyone is willing to testify, I'll let you go. His words brought the room to a standstill. Everyone lowered their heads, avoiding his gaze. Would my testimony count? A calm voice suddenly rose from the crowd. It was Su Zimo, sipping his clear wine with a faint smile. Yuan Hongyu frowned slightly and said coldly, Kid, you'd better think before you speak. Meddling in other people's business never ends well. I'm just stating the facts, Su Zimo smiled. I saw it with my own eyes. She fled from the western region like a stray dog. You asked for it? Yuan Hongyu narrowed his eyes, killing intent flaring. You're lucky to still be alive, he said to the burly man. Be grateful. Yes, yes. The man in black quickly nodded. Kid, slandering our Bailey Imperial clan saintess, you deserve to die, Yuan Hongyu said as he raised his sword and walked towards Su Zimo. There's no slander here. Not only did I witness it, I was involved, Su Zimo said with a calm smile. Oh? Then ask everyone here who's willing to vouch for your story. If no one steps up, it proves you're lying with malicious intent, Yuan Hongyu said coolly. Everyone looked toward the man in black. Su Zimo had just defended him. Now he was the only one who could return the favor. Feeling the pressure of the crowd's gaze, the burly man's expression shifted unpredictably. He struggled internally, then sat down in silence, turning his head away and drinking from his wine jug. Seeing this, the crowd looked at Su Zimo with pity. "Seems like your luck ran out," Yuan Hongyu said with a cruel smile as his followers began surrounding Su Zimo. "There are some people I can't afford to offend? Humph. I don't even put the Bailey Imperial clan in my eyes," Su Zimo muttered as he continued calmly eating. Then he spoke 2 words, "Piss off." Yuan Hongyu's expression darkened with rage. Gritting his teeth, he growled, "Beat him half to death. Hang his corpse on the city gate. I want his head displayed as a warning." As soon as he gave the order, his men charged toward Su Zimo. A thunderclap exploded in everyone's ears. A bolt of lightning descended from the heavens. Shadow Tyrant's blade rang through the air, and in the blink of an eye, bodies dropped to the ground like felled trees. Amid the carnage, Su Zimo remained calmly eating his food. Silence fell. The floor was littered with corpses. The onlookers stared in horror. Yuan Hongyu trembled as he watched all his subordinates die in an instant. Facing Su Zimo's calm gaze, he froze in place. "Want to live?" Su Zimo asked with a smile. Yuan Hongyu nodded frantically, knowing this wasn't the time to act tough. "All right." Su Zimo pointed at the man in black. "Only one of you gets to live. You decide." Before the man in black could react, Yuan Hongyu had already drawn his sword. Brilliant sword light filled the space. A line of blood burst from the man's forehead as he was cut cleanly in half. "Sir, I didn't recognize greatness when I saw it. Please, spare my life." Yuan Hongyu immediately dropped to his knees, begging for mercy. "Take me to the Bailey Imperial clan," Su Zimo said as he laid down his chopsticks. Yuan Hongyu raised his head slightly, dumbfounded. Compared to the bustle of the inner and outer city, the Bailey Imperial clan itself was even livelier tonight. The entire compound was brightly lit and filled with joy and celebration. For the Saintus ceremony, the Bailey Imperial clan had opened the hidden realm left behind by Grand Emperor Chong Kong. This secret realm was a dimensional space, similar to the heaven domain of the true martial sacred ground, used for hosting major events. But in a remote courtyard within the Bailey compound, crashing sounds echoed repeatedly. Angry roars mixed with the smashing of furniture. Trash. A bunch of useless trash. Suddenly, the door flew open. Yuan Hongyu stepped in. Inside, a young man in a purple robe was smashing the room to pieces, his face twisted with rage. Shards of shattered items littered the floor. "What do you want?" the purple-robed youth asked with a frown. "Brother-in-law, someone wants to see you," Yuan Hongyu replied nervously. "Not in the mood. Tell them to scram," the youth said irritably. "He said it's about the position of Holy Sun," Yuan Hongyu added quickly. Chapter 216, Using Power to Intimidate. When Yuan Hongyu said those words, the purple-robed youth, who had been smashing things, paused slightly. He looked deeply in the direction of the door. On the primordial heartlands, whether it's an imperial lineage or another top-tier sect, every era cultivates a chosen successor. If the successor is female, she's called a saintess. If male, he's known as a holy son. "You're Bailey Jinyun?" Su Zimo asked with a smile, looking at the youth before him. "That's not important," the purple-robed youth replied flatly. "Just don't try to play me. The consequences wouldn't be something you can handle. Now speak. What's your plan?" "Use power to suppress them," Su Zimo said calmly. "Your Bailey Imperial clan is, after all, an imperial lineage, ruling over millions of miles of land. You won't want your clan's reputation to be damaged." As Su Zimo laid out his plan, Bailey Jinyun's expression grew increasingly complicated. "Brother Su, will this actually work?" he asked, a little worried. "We'll treat a dead horse as if it could still be cured," Su Zimo replied with a faint smile. "After tomorrow, once the Saintus ceremony is complete, and Bailey Zhao's position is secure, will you still have a chance to fight? Fine. Then I'll take the gamble. Bailey Zhenyun snorted. That Holy Sun position was supposed to be mine. If it weren't for that woman suddenly showing up and cutting in, none of this would have happened. Su Zimo smiled and said, I've given you the opportunity. Whether you succeed or not is up to you. Don't worry. She's definitely no match for me. Bailey Zhenyun nodded. Then he asked, Why are you helping me, Brother Su? Because we share a common enemy, Su Zimo said with a cold smile. My grudge against her is far deeper than yours. The morning sun cast a bright light over the clear sky. As the first rays of sunlight rose, the Bailey Imperial clan residence was already bustling with activity. Bailey Changfeng stood at the gates, where the ancient hidden realm left behind by Grand Emperor Changkong had just been opened. All guests invited to witness the Saintis ceremony were entering the hidden realm. Influential figures greeted Bailey Changfeng as they passed.
Elder Montag.
It's been quite a while since we last met. Welcome. Imperial clan matters have kept me busy. Brother Changfeng, you have a fine daughter. Her Saintis reputation precedes her. Look over there. That's the great elder from the Mo Imperial clan. Onlookers whispered in awe. People like that were rarely seen in public. The Dan Imperial clan is here too. Looks like the Blood Nether Sacred Ground and Supreme Primal Sacred Ground came together. Goodness, the Bailey Imperial clan really lives up to its name as an imperial lineage. Practically every major sect in the Eastern continent has shown up. Why isn't the Qi Imperial clan here? The Qi and Bailey Imperial clans are sworn enemies. They'd never come. This is all about saving face. When these sects host big ceremonies of their own, the Bailey Imperial clan will show up too. As tens of thousands of people filed into the hidden realm, the place became packed wall to wall, buzzing with voices and excitement. Naturally, the important guests were seated in the front, while everyone else stood further back. The massive enthronement platform was surrounded by a sea of people. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone here for attending our Bailey Imperial clan Saintis enthronement ceremony. Bailey Changfeng stood on the platform, dressed in a green robe, exuding commanding presence as he spoke loudly. Since our ancestor Grand Emperor Changkong led the Bailey Imperial clan to prominence, it has been thousands of years. Through the tides of history, our descendants have failed to match his glory. But we continue to strive and believe in the younger generation. One day, the clan's mission and our ancestors' legacy will shine once more through their hands. A new era has begun, and our Bailey Imperial clan intends to be part of it. This is a time of rising geniuses and competing prodigies. By unanimous decision, we hereby declare Bailey Zhao the Saintess of our generation. As Bailey Changfeng finished speaking, a boom echoed across the air. Endless spirit force surged through the sky. It looked as though a river of stars had appeared in the heavens, suspended from the southeast corner of the sky, radiating dazzling light across the firmament. A young woman stepped forward through the air, her entire body wrapped in immortal radiance. Ethereal music seemed to echo from beyond the heavens, ringing in everyone's ears. Bailey Zhao wore a flowing pale purple dress. Ribbons swirled gently around her body. With the first breeze of winter, the ribbons danced in the wind. Her long hair was loosely tied, but as she descended, it fluttered freely behind her. Her skin was snow-pale, her lips red, and her teeth dazzling white. Many people in the crowd involuntarily swallowed as they gazed at her. How is this possible? She's only at the desolate Meridian realm? Some of the younger Bailey Imperial clan disciples whispered in disbelief. Bailey Changfeng slowly pulled out the Saintis token and declared loudly, "Shower. This Saintis token now belongs to you. It carries the hopes of our entire Bailey Imperial clan. May you create your own legend in this new era." Just as Bailey Zhao was about to accept the token, a sudden shout rang out from the crowd. "Hold it! I object to this." All eyes turned in shock toward the voice. Bailey Zhenyun stepped forward from the crowd. "Zhenyun, what are you doing?" Bailey Changfeng frowned. "With all of the Eastern continent's most influential people gathered here today, I want to take this chance, as an ordinary member of the Bailey Imperial clan's younger generation, to ask our patriarch a question. What exactly are the standards for determining the holy son or saintess of this clan? He said loudly. In the past, the title of holy son was always decided through competition among the young disciples. So why, after Bailey Xiao suddenly returned, was the position of saintess handed to her without any clear process or fair competition? I refused to accept it. Seeing Bailey Qingfeng's awkward expression, Bailey Jinyun swept his eyes across the audience and continued. All of us from the younger generation are here today, so I ask, are we part of the Bailey Imperial clan? Or is this just a dictatorship where one person makes all the decisions? Many of you must feel the same way. Today, in front of all these guests, it's time we got an answer. If you won't stand up, if you choose to be cowards, then I've got nothing more to say. It only proves you don't deserve the title of Holy Son. As soon as he finished speaking, the audience erupted. I don't accept this, someone shouted, standing up. Me neither. Yeah. Why does Bailey Xiao get to be the saintess? As more voices joined the protest, the sky suddenly darkened. A massive sage ship slowly descended from above. The true martial sacred ground congratulates the Bailey Imperial clan on the enthronement of their new saintess. Chapter 217 One Palm. As the voice erupted from the sky, the massive sage ship thundered in the air, followed by several figures descending slowly from the heavens. Each of these figures exuded immense power, their overwhelming auras radiating outward. Leading them was the first Grand Elder of the true martial sacred ground, and all those behind him were Imperial Meridian Realm experts. As the group landed, the crowd below burst into commotion. Why would the true martial sacred ground come personally to the Bailey Imperial clan? Someone asked in confusion. I heard Bailey Xiao used to be a disciple of the true martial sacred ground. But regardless of the crowd's speculations, the Grand Elder swept his gaze over the rebellious disciples of the Bailey Imperial clan and said flatly, You want to know why Bailey Xiao was chosen as saintess? Then let me tell you. Bailey Xiao is not only a daughter of the Bailey Imperial clan. She is also a disciple of our true martial sacred ground. As long as she becomes the saintess of the Bailey Imperial clan, we will also cultivate her with full support. At this, many people began to understand. Bailey Xiao was the link between two imperial lineages. Just think, someone backed by not one, but two imperial powers, how terrifying would that be? No one else in the Bailey Imperial clan could compete with her on that level. More importantly, since the true martial sacred ground was the #1 sect in the Eastern continent, the Bailey Imperial clan had every reason to want to build closer ties. The young disciples present fell into silence. They had lost from the start not just in backing but also in natural talent, since Bailey Xiao was already known to be exceptionally gifted. Then, a calm voice from the crowd broke the silence. It seems the Grand Elder alone doesn't represent the entire true martial sacred ground. All eyes turned as Su Zimo stepped forward from the crowd. Dressed in white robes, his aura was sharp and commanding. His deep eyes locked onto Bailey Xiao, and a mocking smile appeared at the corner of his lips. Who are you? Several Bailey Imperial clan elders barked. I am Su Zimo, and in the name of the current holy son of the true martial sacred ground, I swear dash. He swept his gaze over the crowd before finally resting it on Bailey Xiao. If Bailey Xiao dares to return to the sect, I will use every resource and connection at my disposal to suppress her. I will make sure she cannot take a single step forward inside the sect. His voice was calm, but the iron conviction in it made everyone feel its weight. Oh, and perhaps many of you don't know this, Su Zimo continued with a smile. But not long ago, had the Bailey Patriarch not arrived in time, I would have killed her. You survived that time, but you won't be so lucky next time. At these words, the Grand Elder of the true martial sacred ground frowned and said coldly, Su Zimo, why are you here? Do I need to report my whereabouts to you?
Su Yimo Yukke.
This matter doesn't concern you. Don't cause trouble, the Grand Elder warned. I understand, Su Zimo replied, smiling faintly. I'm simply here to tell the young disciples of the Bailey Imperial clan. My presence in the true martial sacred ground means she won't gain anything from that connection. She doesn't deserve the Saintess title without proper merit. Young Master Su, Bailey Changfeng said, taking a deep breath. This is a family matter. I hope you won't interfere. I won't. Carry on. Su Zimo replied casually. Before leaving, he gave Bailey Jinyun a meaningful glance and walked away, the crowd parting for him automatically. So that's Su Zimo, Lin Yuqing remarked with a faint smile. Still just as obnoxious as ever, Bailey Xiao said quietly. Even after everything, he still refuses to let me go. It's better this way, Lin Yuqing smiled. Now I'll have no guilt when I crush him. Patriarch, since the holy son of the true martial sacred ground has spoken, shouldn't we get an explanation as well? Bailey Jinyun asked flatly. His heart pounded rapidly, palms drenched in sweat. It was clear he was extremely nervous. The crowd was captivated. After all, onlookers never mind a bit of chaos. Before Bailey Changfeng could respond, Bailey Xiao stepped forward. With composure in her voice, she said, "What kind of explanation do you want?" "A fair opportunity to compete for the title of Holy Son," Bailey Jinyun said calmly. "Fine. I'll give you one," Bailey Xiao replied with a smile as desolate meridian realm energy surged around her. "I'm right here. Anyone who's dissatisfied can come at me. Today, in front of everyone, if anyone can defeat me, I'll give up the title." Bailey Changfeng was startled. "You haven't fully recovered after being forcefully stripped of your soaring immortal physique. This battle won't be in your favor."
Su Yimo.
Bailey Jinyun. "Nothing more than a pack of rabid dogs, not enough to reach the apex." Bailey Xiao replied flatly. "If I still need to second-guess when facing nobodies like them, how could I ever qualify to carry the heaven's will and contend with true prodigies?" As she walked forward, the silk ribbons around her fluttered in the breeze. Her aura grew stronger with each step. Bailey Changfeng's eyes sparkled with admiration. A true powerhouse always has an invincible Tao heart. The forces behind them are just embellishments, Bailey Xiao said coldly. "This title was mine from the start." Bailey Jinyun snorted, spirit force surging around him. "If you hadn't shown up and interfered, this honor would be mine now." A faint blue sword light flashed through the air. He raised his sword and charged directly at Bailey Xiao. The sword light rippled rapidly in the air, splitting into several sharp arcs. "Pathetic! With this level of strength, you dare to compete against me?" Bailey Xiao shook her head. She took one step forward. Her delicate hand seemed to cut through space itself and struck at the weakest point of the sword attack. Boom! The sword energy shattered completely. Her hand did not stop. It slammed directly into Bailey Jinyun's chest. A thunderous explosion echoed as a shockwave burst in the air. Bailey Jinyun's body was flung off the platform and crashed violently to the ground. When everyone turned to look, he was already barely clinging to life. A gaping, bloody hole had been blasted through his chest. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. A gruesome sight. "One move," Bailey Xiao said coldly, sweeping her gaze across the young disciples. "If you weren't a member of the Bailey Imperial clan, that palm strike would have ended your life." The young disciples stood frozen, trembling with fear. They all swallowed hard. They knew full well that Bailey Jinyun was among the top 5 strongest among the younger generation of the Bailey Imperial clan. Though not the absolute strongest, he was still close. And yet, with just one strike, he hadn't even been able to withstand a single blow from Bailey Xiao. Chapter 218 What is a sect worth? As the others reconsidered their own strength, not a single person dared step onto the stage. "How embarrassing!" Su Zimo chuckled softly from below. He could tell that Bailey Xiao wasn't much stronger than Bailey Jinyun. Even if she was stronger, it shouldn't have been so easy to defeat him. What truly made the difference was Bailey Xiao's battle experience and her mastery over spirit force, being able to immediately spot the weakness in Jinyun's technique and concentrate her full power there. With just one move, she left Jinyun no chance to fight back. This preserved her strength and stunned the younger generation into silence. "Bailey Xiao, you'd strike your own kin like that?" You're not fit to be the saintess, a young man in the crowd shouted. Exactly. She's vicious and ruthless. It was just a sparring match, yet she showed no mercy to a fellow clansman. How can such a person lead us? As more and more people found this weakness to exploit, the protests began to pile on. When you don't have strength, all you've got left is your mouth. Enough! A thunderous roar silenced the entire crowd. Bailey Chungfeng stood tall, an overwhelming aura radiating from him as he looked at the younger generation of his clan with disappointment. You all truly disappoint me. If your skills are lacking, then work harder, catch up. Instead, you resort to jealousy and slander. She injured one clan member, and you cry that she's cruel? Do you even know what it means to be a grand emperor? Without tens of thousands of lives on your hands, you're not even worthy of being called powerful. Greatness is built on mountains of bones. The strongest are those who walk out of seas of blood. Look at yourselves. What do you think you are? Silence filled the venue. Many of the youths lowered their heads in shame. Enough. I hope my words make you reflect, Bailey Chungfeng sighed. Then, raising his voice again, he declared, I now proclaim Bailey Xiao as the current generation saintess of the Bailey Imperial clan. As Bailey Xiao stepped forward and took the saintess token, the clan members below all bowed and shouted in unison, Greetings, saintess! Bailey Xiao walked to the edge of the stage, her gaze sharp. She looked at Su Zimo and smiled calmly. Got any more schemes or plans? My words still stand, Su Zimo said with a faint smile. If you dare return to the true martial sacred ground, I will do everything in my power to destroy you. How about a bet? He added. What are we betting? Bailey Xiao asked. A duel. If you win, I'll give up my position as holy son of the true martial sacred ground. That way, you'll be the saintess of 2 imperial lineages, Su Zimo said. If you lose, I won't ask for anything, just one condition. Bailey Xiao thought for a moment, then asked, What condition? A battle to the death. One of us must die. No surrender, no withdrawal, Su Zimo replied, smiling. You're not as smart as you think you are, Bailey Xiao said, turning and walking away. Su Zimo chuckled and didn't try to stop her. After all, this was the Bailey Imperial clan's territory, and there were too many people around. He didn't want to reveal too many cards today. More importantly, killing Bailey Xiao wasn't interesting enough. After all, death isn't the most painful thing in life. As the enthronement ceremony wrapped up, the Bailey Imperial clan prepared a feast for all the guests. The food served was made from spirit herbs and treasures, extremely rare and valuable in the outside world. For that day, the entire Bailey city covered everyone's expenses. Guests could eat and drink anywhere in town, completely free of charge. As the feast neared its end, Su Zimo found Bailey Chungfeng. Having seen how the ceremony had played out, Bailey Chungfeng already had a good idea of what had happened. Though his younger disciples had complaints, they wouldn't have dared act out so boldly without someone backing them. That someone, of course, was Su Zimo, so Bailey Chungfeng's attitude toward him had turned colder. You want to enter the Heaven Genesis microcosm? Bailey Chungfeng asked flatly. Yes. I hope Patriarch Bailey can make arrangements soon. Su Zimo nodded. 7 days from now, Bailey Chungfeng said indifferently. Then, after a brief silence, he added, May I ask why are you so hostile toward my daughter? I've looked into it. She hasn't really done anything to offend you, has she? No need to plead for her. Some things once decided won't change, Su Zimo said, shaking his head. Then do as you please. Bailey Chungfeng huffed and walked off with a flick of his sleeve. Not long after, the first Grand Elder of the true martial sacred ground approached Su Zimo. Your feud with Bailey Xiao ends here, the elder said coldly. That's the will of the Vice Lord. Things aren't as simple as you think. My path is my own. I don't need others making decisions for me, Su Zimo replied. Listen here, boy, without the sect, you're nothing. The elder frowned. Bailey Xiao is no longer who she used to be. The sect plans to cultivate both of you, to compete for the current generation's heaven's will. There can only be one Grand Emperor, Suzimo said with a faint smile. So in the end, you're asking us to kill each other? You don't understand, the elder replied. If you both reach the final stage, our sect has a better chance of claiming the heaven's will. Even if one loses, the winner might spare them, for the sake of being fellow disciples. Grand Elder, you don't seem to understand. Suzimo shook his head calmly. I will bear the heaven's will. No matter how talented they are, genius or monster, if they crawl before me, they may live. If not, they'll become bones on the road to my ascension. Arrogant fool, the elder snorted. This is the sect's will, not something you can overturn. As the Grand Elder walked away, Suzimo smiled faintly and shook his head. What is a sect worth? With the enthronement ceremony over, Bailey City remained lively, but it couldn't match the hype of the previous days. The story of Bailey Xiao defeating Bailey Jinyun with a single palm quickly spread through the city. Her reputation as the Bailey Imperial Clan Saintess spread rapidly across the eastern continent. People always paid close attention to the saintesses and holy sons of major sects, especially imperial lineages. After all, these were the top contenders for the heavens will each generation. 7 days later, Suzimo returned to the Bailey Imperial Clan, ready to enter the Heaven Genesis microcosm. Bailey Changfeng was already waiting inside the clan, and he personally led Suzimo to the clan's forbidden area. You have 7 days, Bailey Changfeng said. After that, the hidden realm will forcibly expel you.
Suzimo nodded.
What lay inside the Heaven Genesis microcosm was crucial to him. Had he not wasted time in primordial ancient city, he might have already obtained what he came for. Chapter 219 Heaven Genesis Microcosm. Walking through the dim corridor, seasonal flowers stretched along both walls. The morning sun was blocked by thick clouds, and snow drifted across the land, blanketing the world in white. Some disciples, bare-chested, practiced sword techniques in the snow. Others ran around the clan estate with huge boulders strapped to their backs. Suzimo followed behind Bailey Changfeng, turning through multiple corridors. They passed through several formations in silence, eventually arriving at a particularly ancient and majestic gate. This gate soared into the clouds, its top nowhere in sight. Mist floated around it, making it seem like an independent world. Suzimo lowered his gaze. At some point, a dense white fog had gathered beneath his feet. It was as if he were walking on air. Ancestor, I bring someone to enter the Heaven Genesis microcosm, Bailey Changfeng said respectfully, taking out a token and bowing slightly. At that moment, the space ahead distorted, and an old man stepped out. Though his body didn't emanate any overwhelming pressure, the spirit force in the surroundings was drawn toward him as if compelled. An outsider? The old man glanced at Suzimo and asked flatly. Yes. Bailey Changfeng hesitated briefly, then nodded. You should know how important the Heaven Genesis microcosm is to the clan, the old man said calmly. I understand, Bailey Changfeng replied. The old man didn't stop them. He gave Suzimo a long, penetrating stare. In that moment, Suzimo felt immense pressure descending from the old man's presence. But he kept his composure, standing tall and meeting the gaze without flinching. Golden spirit force gathered in the air as the old man waved his hands several times. With a deep rumble, the massive gate slowly opened, exuding an ancient and heavy aura. 3 days, the old man said. You must leave the hidden realm in 3 days. Hearing this, Bailey Changfeng looked at Suzimo. He had originally promised 7 days, but now that the old ancestor had spoken, he didn't dare object.
Fine Suzimo nodded.
Bailey Changfeng let out a breath of relief. After all, this situation put him in the awkward position of breaking his word. As Suzimo walked through the gate, the white mist swallowed him whole. Only then did the old man turn back and ask, Who is he? The holy son of the true martial sacred ground. Bailey Changfeng quickly answered. This was a trade. Go then, the old man nodded. In the future, avoid bringing outsiders into the Heaven Genesis microcosm. After all, This is one of the few treasures left to the clan by ancestor Chong Kong. Tens of thousands of years have eroded too much. If no new Grand Emperor arises within the clan, our decline is inevitable. Bailey Chung Fong nodded repeatedly. This old man was the strongest ancestor of the Bailey Imperial clan, a cultivator of the path of immortality at the arcane immortal realm, and once a war general under Grand Emperor Chong Kong. His seniority was unmatched. "If there's a chance, bring the current saintess for me to see," the old man said after a pause. "The path of immortality has 5 stages, and each is a towering obstacle. I've barely stepped into immortality. That's already my limit. My life ends here. If the clan cannot birth a new emperor, then when I eventually pass on, what will be left of this so-called imperial clan? You see so many imperial lineages across the primordial heartlands, but how many still possess real power? There is no such thing as eternal invincibility. Even emperors must walk their own paths. What they gave their clans was already more than enough. Perhaps it was because few ever visited, or because countless years of cultivation had left him lonely, the old man spoke at length. Bailey Chung Fong remembered that the snow was heavy that day. When he left, his heart was uneasy. Even he had long been intoxicated by the glory of being an imperial lineage. They had never feared anything, believing that even if the sky collapsed, the ancestor would hold it up. But he had forgotten one truth. The ancestor too would one day reach the end of his life. When all the glory was buried in the sands of time, what would be left of an imperial clan beyond its name? For the first time in centuries of leadership, Bailey Chung Fong felt a sense of crisis. Su Zimo stepped into the fog, which blanketed everything in sight. He felt weightless. Then came a dizzying spin, as if falling into an endless vortex. This lasted for some time until his body stabilized. Su Zimo found himself standing in the middle of a vast plain. It stretched endlessly. Apart from the distant mountains, there was little else in sight. The world here felt especially dull and lifeless. The only notable thing was the astonishing density of spirit force, so thick it was almost absurd. With Su Zimo's arrival, the once peaceful world suddenly stirred. The natural spirit force began to surge. Though spirit force is typically invisible and formless, this time it carried traces of greenish-yellow mist. Centered around this colored mist and aided by the surrounding spirit force, the world quickly began to manifest countless creatures. There were ancient towering trees, ferocious wild lions, galloping deer, and even legendary beasts from primordial times roaring skyward. The earth bore their weight as they came to life and ran freely through the world. These beings paid no attention to Su Zimo. It is said that within the Bailey Imperial clan's Heaven Genesis microcosm exists a power known as the Heaven Genesis Force. This energy provides immense benefits for foundational cultivation, breaking through bottlenecks, and refining the body. It's said that once one's body is tempered by this Heaven Genesis Force, it becomes much easier to open the meridian gates. And this Heaven Genesis Force exists only here in the Eastern continent, extremely rare and precious. Though the Heaven Genesis microcosm can produce it on its own, the process is very slow. Demand has always outpaced supply, so the Bailey Imperial clan opens it only once per year, allowing only the most talented disciples to train within. Once the Heaven Genesis Force is depleted, the world is sealed again to regenerate. As Su Zimo's spirit force surged, his true fate world opened within. A devouring force began pulling in all the surrounding manifested creatures. These beings had a faint awareness and instinctively scattered to flee in all directions. "Not bad," Su Zimo remarked, sensing the energy. "But it's not what I'm looking for." Shaking his head, he walked deeper into the microcosm. Though the space here wasn't infinite, it wasn't small either. While there had been little danger at the edge, as Su Zimo pressed onward, the manifested creatures began to turn hostile and launched attacks toward him. Chapter 220 Black Gold Energy. At first, the outermost beasts attacking Su Zimo were nothing more than ordinary wild animals. But as he ventured deeper, Su Zimo could feel these beasts growing stronger, eventually evolving into spirit beasts. With the mad blood demon leading the way, Su Zimo barely needed to lift a finger. After walking for about 10 minutes, hordes of spirit beasts surged in from every direction, turning the once empty world into a pitch-black wave of bodies. Once the mad blood demon finished clearing out the beasts, a chorus of terrifying roars echoed from all around. Azure Dragon, True Phoenix, Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise, and the Qilin. These were no ordinary beasts, but mythical creatures straight out of ancient legends, beasts from the legendary era. As their terrifying auras swept across the world, these god beasts roared furiously, as if warning Su Zimo to leave. The mad blood demon also surged with spirit force, his blood-colored river swirling above the heavens. As a puppet, he knew no fear or emotion. Su Zimo pressed forward, undeterred. The god beasts attacked in unison. Dragons soared, tigers roared, and bestial power ravaged the space, causing the small world to tremble and collapse in places. Though these weren't real creatures, just manifestations of Heaven Genesis force, their strength was formidable. Even the mad blood demon couldn't instantly deal with them. With the beasts held at bay, Su Zimo advanced swiftly. Eventually, he arrived before a towering mountain. It was vast and majestic, shaped like a curved bow with steep slopes and an oval peak. As he drew closer, the god beasts grew even more frenzied. Su Zimo stopped. Around the mountain was a thin, transparent barrier shimmering with golden light. Within that glow, an immense, oppressive aura brewed. Su Zimo gathered his spirit force and struck the barrier with a fist. Ripples spread out like a stone cast into a still lake. A colossal imperial aura erupted into the sky. Spirit force surged, space shattered, and from the golden light, countless ancient characters floated out. The barrier trembled, and even the earth quaked. Rumbles echoed across the small world. An imperial seal left behind by Grand Emperor Chong Kong, Su Zimo muttered, eyes narrowing. Meanwhile, outside the realm, the old ancestor of the Bailey imperial clan suddenly opened his eyes. A terrifying force burst from him, shaking the surrounding space. Grand Emperor Chong Kong's array has been triggered. As the imperial seal rose into the sky, the once calm barrier began to hum and expand. Cracks spread across the land. The barrier stretched outward, forcibly driving away every living creature nearby. Within its surface, the glowing characters flickered. Thunder rumbled, and immense power crackled along the shield. Anything that touched it would be instantly swallowed and erased. At that moment, Paimon appeared, stepping out of the void. The sky was covered in devilish mist. His aura radiated in all directions. Dark fog condensed as he raised his fist and smashed it into the barrier. Boom! The impact sent waves of energy erupting outward. Cracks began to spread across the barrier. Interesting, Paimon sneered. Then he clenched his fist again and threw several more punches. Boom! 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 The shock waves exploded like mushroom clouds, forming and dispersing in the air, only to reform again. Finally, the sound of shattering glass echoed through the realm. The once indestructible barrier crumbled completely. At that moment, a roar echoed from the sky as the old ancestor tore through space and appeared in the air. "What are you doing?" he bellowed, his eyes bloodshot with rage. "Hold him off," Su Zimo said calmly. Then he began walking toward the mountain. The ancestor tried to stop him, but black mist surged around him, and Paimon's glowing eyes locked on him. Another punch landed. Boom! The old man was knocked backward, slamming into the ground and forming a massive pit. Power surged from the crater. He soared out of it, standing in the air with a grim expression. "Arcane immortal realm?" he asked, eyes narrowing. Paimon chuckled softly. "Let's secure you first, for the master's judgment." Around the mountain, the Heaven Genesis force was denser than ever. It seemed this was the core of the entire micro-world, the source from which Heaven Genesis force spread across the realm. At the mountain's base, the mad blood demon punched a wide path into the rock, sending stones tumbling from above. Su Zimo followed closely behind. Every punch from the demon carved a tunnel into the mountain. The deeper they went, the purer and denser the Heaven Genesis force became. Finally, after the mad blood demon broke through the mountain's base, they reached a vacuum zone halfway up the peak. It was clearly a separate space, sealed off by an ancient formation. Torrents of Heaven Genesis force flowed from the array. This clearly was the very heart of the Heaven Genesis microcosm. And within that formation, a strange yellow gas swirled, vivid and alive, crashing against the array walls as if trying to escape. It was dense with energy. The surrounding Heaven Genesis force all radiated from it. This meant the entire realm's Heaven Genesis force was produced by this single entity. Black gold energy? Suzimo whispered, gazing at the golden mist still struggling inside the array. This was the final ingredient needed to condense his true fate world. Also known as the energy of heaven and earth, black gold energy is often referenced in the phrase heaven is dark, earth is yellow, a nod to the idea that it is the core substance of creation. With it, a world is truly complete. After a few more strikes, the mad blood demon finally shattered the array. The moment it broke, the black gold energy burst forth like a freed beast, surging outward at terrifying speed. Just then, Suzimo's true fate appeared above his head. The space shattered open, and the primordial chaos bead flew out. Huge thanks to Bob Oakley and Op-N. Thank you for becoming Grand Emperors and supporting this story. You guys rock.